The first day of North American League playoffs saw Youngbloods and major champions alike cast down into the last chance qualifiers. Today, the clarion sounds and the top two teams in NA descend from on high to show us just how strong they really are. It's guts and glory, it's storm and fury. It is the best siege this side of the equator. It's day 2 of the NAL playoffs. I am Corbeck, happy to be here in the studio one more time here with two of the most brilliant minds in Siege. It's Laxing and Foxa. I knew it was going to happen eventually. I knew it was going to happen eventually. But gentlemen, today is an extra exciting day because we are sending a team to the major.
Yeah,
two teams to the major.
It's definitely the best day to look forward to. You get to see your favorite teams get sent to the major, or you get to see maybe your favorite team get sent into an LC, well, not an LCQ, but into the lower bracket finals and see if they can get their last chance of making it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, all the teams that are at the top, you get this first win, you qualify for the major, and then you get to play for first place without that pressure looming over your head. But then the teams that do lose, the pressure in the lower bracket to get that third place spot, it really bites down, like all the way down. You feel that weight on your back, so it's really scary to be in that position, and no one wants to end up there.
No, they don't. But of course, before we can get into that, we should talk about what happened yesterday, because it was a day that had some surprises. One expected outcome anyway, though, and another very unexpected outcome.
Yeah, I don't think we expected M80 to take the win away from C9BC. And I also would like to say I don't think we expected Wildcard to put up as much of a fight as they did against SQ. SQ ended up running away with that win, with a 2-1 win. And obviously, it's nice to see Soniqs get that win, but it hasn't been necessarily the most dominant performance. Wildcard put up a great fight, and it was nice to see that they have something to look forward to taking into that LCQ open bracket run, and hopefully they have a lot to take away from that game. But as for Soniqs, I mean, need to see a lot better today.
Yeah, and I went into Soniqs' point yesterday. Is it a cause for concern after losing that game against C9 Beast Coast and what they were going to look like going into playoffs and how scary it was for Wildcard again. But like you said, Wildcard actually put up one hell of a performance against them. Unfortunately, they couldn't muster out keeping the last game close where they ended up losing 3-7 on that clubhouse. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I do want to see Soniqs coming in today, bringing a little more structure, a little more team play, getting rounds cleaner ended towards the end there, and then even going into that next game, C9 Beast Coast M80. I mean, I honestly thought, it was close games. They were 7-5, 7-5s, but I thought for sure that game was going to go the distance of needing all 3 maps. But M80 had that huge bounce back, that resilience, and that amazing defensive half that solidified them to get that 7-5 and push them into today's match against Dark Zero. Yeah,
no, it was definitely, I would say, a kind of defensive half for the ages right there, just with all those clutches that went in. Obviously, M80 might be relying on that here today, but they're our second game of the day. Our first game is obviously SSG versus Soniqs, and I mean, Laxing, you alluded to it here. Soniqs, they got to tighten up the bolts if they want to win this one out.
Yeah, and I also said it yesterday as well. The game that I'm most anticipated to be watching and looking forward to the most is actually this first game of Soniqs versus SSG, because I do think they are very similar in kind of how they play, or their depth of their strats and the structure. But I think overall, it's really going to be a true testament to both teams to see who really is going to come in today's match and show who is the better team from a strategical standpoint.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe this matchup is the battle of consistency. Both teams struggling to really become that top 2 slot. Yes, SSG was able to scrape away with it, but it wasn't necessarily an easy victory for them. And SQ, we thought it would be a lot more consistent from them. And then towards the end, they've had their worst showing against C9BC. And then yesterday, I mean, it was a great performance from Wildcard, but it wasn't a great performance from Soniqs by no means.
No, they definitely felt like they were fighting against themselves at various points in time, and they're going to be fighting against Spacestation today. They're second place overall in the league, gentlemen. Did they earn that spot, or did they kind of sneak in there under the radar?
I mean, I think they earned it because SSG has been a prime example of you get out what you put in. I mean, every game has been such a hard-fought victory for them. A 7-5 win or an OT win. Their only game that was very decisive was their 7-3 win against C9BC. But even with this performance of them scraping these wins by, a lot of these games end up on the shoulders of big individual plays. And I mean, you look at their opening kills and their opening deaths, and it's statistics that aren't too crazy. Yes, they are positive. They're plus 10 on their opening kills, and they're finding that success on the entry. We'll talk a little bit about why later, but the rest of SSG's statistics are kind of just good all around the board. And that's what SSG has been, good. We haven't necessarily seen great. We've seen glimpses of it, but we want to see more than just that. And one of the players that we specifically saw a lot more of was Benja. I mean, he's been playing phenomenally well since the inception of SSG and slowly been getting more and more comfortable along the team. He's just been trying to fill in the gaps, fill in those slots, and he has been one of the big factors of why they are plus 10 in that opening kills department. He's constantly getting into these positions to get SSG that advantage, but there hasn't been, I guess, turnaround with these opening kills, and that's why rounds end up getting so close. And every time we watch SSG, we always see a big Ashen play, a big Benja play, a big J9O play. We have to see big plays because it's not necessarily great amongst the board. You'll see one SSG round where it's phenomenal all the way through, and then another that's just shaky that they barely scrape by.
You know, in the beginning of even getting into this stage and even EWC where we got to saw Benja come into fruition with this team, it was a question of not to matter as how well is Benja going to do on this team, it's just how fast are they going to slot him into this roster and allow him to play the position that we've all known him to be playing in the role that he does, and how fast he was going to be acclimated to the environment. And honestly, that was almost right away. And again, we've seen glimpses from this roster. We've seen glimpses of what they can do, but the player that has been the most consistent, like you were saying, is Benja, and that's how he's been constantly throughout his iteration of G2, winning that world championship, and now still finding himself doing the exact same thing on this SSG roster.
Yeah, I agree, and we have seen glimpses of it, but I feel like we're all tired of just tastes of SSG. We want the whole SSG at this point.
The whole SSG. I mean, they're going to need the whole SSG here today if they're going to beat Soniqs. Soniqs, you know, they had a couple of rough goes yesterday, but it's the Canadian system. It's still Soniqs, so you can't count them out.
Yeah, and, you know, you do have to talk about yesterday because it was, you know, we thought it was going to be kind of, you know, a blowout from them given their performance this entire stage. And again, because of that fallout that we saw against C9 Beast Coast, it wasn't a cause for concern. But again, you have to talk about that game yesterday specifically because it was a very close game. It wasn't as dominant as we thought it was going to look. I mean, that first map, it was a 7-5 from Wildcard that we genuinely believed that was going to be Wildcard's map just solely due to the fact that they started on the defensive half first, and this map was very heavily favored on the defensive half. Then that game ends up going 7-4. Then we go into the next game. It falls into a 7-5. Again, another very close game. Wildcard hadn't showed this map yet. Again, 7-5, but then you go into the last game. This is where Wildcard, unfortunately, they couldn't keep up the distance. They couldn't go the distance where SQ did, but it does show SQ's resilience. But something to keep in mind, I mean, there's one key factor when you're looking at this, and it's Ambi. Ambi has been the standout player throughout that series.
Yeah, and also another key factor is Canadian. He was towards the bottom of the leaderboard for all three matchups, and I don't think that's a testament to his individual skill. It's just when you are IGLing a roster of players, you could contribute Ambi's success to Canadian's IGL.
Absolutely, and you know, we talked about Ambi in the interview, and he said, you know, he was playing mid, and obviously we highlighted him yesterday, but Ambi has not been playing mid. He's playing the furthest thing from mid. He's averaging over 100 EPS, and then especially to highlight him in yesterday's games, you are going into playoffs peaking your performance so far. That's got to feel good for Soniqs, but not only for Soniqs, especially for Ambi, because we know how pivotal and how good Ambi can be, and the fact that he is now turning up that heat going into playoffs, it is a scary thing that SSG is going to have to try to thwart off going into this matchup.
Yeah, I don't think I'll forget you saying, you know, as we were watching, oh, if Ambi just holds top floor, that's all Ambi needs to do. And I mean, he held it. Is he really kind of evolved into a player that Canadian just knows he can go to Ambi when he needs it? Is that where he's at now?
Absolutely. I think Ambi is definitely one of the best pickups that, you know, any roster has brought up from the younger tier 2 talent, T3 talent. Ambi is a young prodigy, and he still has a lot to learn, but the fact that he's gone out the gate running, already attended an SI, made a semifinal appearance. I mean, Ambi is definitely a player, again, for rookies to look up to understand how you can play, what you can do with your own style of play. Ambi is definitely that player to be looking at.
I believe Ambi's in a position where once this roster was formed, he was kind of the rookie that didn't necessarily have expectations on his shoulders. He just had to do his job, and he's been doing it, and now he's in the momentum stage where he's a snowball falling down the cliff, and he's only going to pick up more speed, especially as the team gets more comfortable, and we are seeing him here in his peak performance currently, and hopefully he can continue it as the stage goes on.
Well, it's definitely something to look forward to, but you've heard from us. How about we go straight to the source? Here's Fultz and Canadian to tell us about their teams and where they are in the playoffs.
Hey, I'm Canadian from Soniqs. We just won our first playoffs game versus Wildcard. I think we started things out pretty rough. It felt like we were playing not to lose rather than playing to win. We said some things between maps and basically just said, like, just fight for every single round and, like, let's make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure we have a chance in this and make sure that we did our best to win. And I think we did a great job of that through the end. I think we have a lot to be proud of in terms of how we turned around the mentality and just fought for the rest of the game.
We had a big win versus Beast Coast, which was probably the cleanest win that we had that week. And then we played Los 1 and then Wildcard towards the end. And both those games we had full control of, and we kind of let both of them go into OT when they probably in reality shouldn't have. We got the win regardless, and top 2 was secured, so all is good, but not the cleanest way to do it. So
I'm not normally one that pays too close attention to the kill count, but I was hearing Ambi dropped like damn near 50 kills in the series, so that's crazy. I'd say as far as vibes go, I think Surf did a great job helping push the guys to fight as well. And extra voice, like just more people believing for it and trying to rally us, I think is always important. The more people on board with it, the better.
Benja and Liam, I know they had a really good stage, like frag department. Jay did too. We have 3 like of the best fraggers in NAL, so it really is like a lethal combo when we're all glued and we hit that flow state. I think Soniqs, Troy has influenced their team and their play style a lot. I see a lot of similarities between when he was on DZ and their style compared to SQ now. They still did keep some of that same play style of the old SQ too. So it's a pretty unique dynamic, and they're solid. I respect them, but we're more than capable of beating them. So
they have a culture that they really all buy into, and I think belief in themselves and each other. That makes it hard to play against. They're the type of team that will fight for rounds. The way that they play, it's very set up for Benja and Ashen to have big impact. But I think the supporting cast has been playing really well for them too. I think Fultz and Forrest have had both great seasons, so I think that's kind of their biggest strength as a team, I'd say.
My only expectation going into our game Saturday is that we follow the game plan and we don't, slide off of whatever our game plan is just because we're getting beat first map. I just want us to stick to whatever our plan is. So that's really my only goal coming into playoffs.
I think this team feels very confident no matter what, as long as we are fighting for every round and doing everything in our power to win. Yeah, I think we're feeling good and confident, just as long as we carry in that kind of grit and that fight into future games.
Guys, this may be a bit of a silly question from me, but do you think we talk, and I know I'm guilty of it actually, do we talk a little bit too much about Canadian on Soniqs? Does it overshadow the rest of that team and how good they are?
I mean, I don't think we over talk about Canadian. I think anytime Soniqs comes up, you have to mention the impact that Canadian has had. You heard even Fultz mention it, and obviously you have to do it to give him the respect that he's earned on that roster.
Of course.
But obviously, if anybody, the viewer, the teams that are playing against Soniqs, if you focus too much on Canadian, you're going to let the other talented players run amok on you. And that's the issue with playing against Soniqs, is even if you hard focus Canadian, he's not necessarily the one that's winning the team on his lonesome. He's making sure that his chess pieces are in the right positions at the right time and going on whatever you give them. And so I'm really looking forward to this game being kind of an adaptive defense game. Really, which team has the more adaptive, fast-paced, retaking defensive side? And we heard Canadian talk a lot about it, just always going for that attack. We want to make sure we're always attacking in every round. And they were slow on that wildcard game, so I'm expecting to see some big, fast, aggressive defenses.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a border and an aggressive defense. I mean, this map will definitely have an aggressive defense. Yeah, I do like this because this is the first time we are going to be seeing it from Soniqs, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I believe from SSG as well. Yes.
Soniqs played Lair against OXG.
So, yeah, these are actually... No, wait. Soniqs has played this.
Soniqs played Lair against OSG.
So this will be the first time SSG is playing it. But again, Border is a very aggressive map that, again, for the defense specifically, you're going to be fighting them at the forefront of Top East, going into Break, getting into CC, going into Dome. So I am expecting to see a lot of SSG moving around the map, backing one another up. But then on that same end, I'm expecting a little bit of Soniqs of also doing a little bit of that as well, using that shield play as much as possible to get into the map, to take those gunfights, to gain those positions, and really try to keep that fundamental game going of just keeping that man advantage as high as possible and just trickle that down to a 2v1, 1v1, whatever that's going to look like.
I think that's an excellent breakdown of why we would be seeing the border here. I guess a question, maybe the Lair pick. Is that just to try and throw them off kilter a little bit? Where are you coming from there if you're looking at that from the Soniqs perspective?
I mean, both teams played Lair towards the end of their stage. And
sure, but it's still not very played. I mean,
it's still not very played. There's still a lot up into the air, but both teams have shown that they're comfortable on it. And in a best of 3, that's obviously the situation where you want to get a map like Lair. So I really like SQ taking a completely different style of maps as we saw yesterday. Yesterday we saw very confined spaces, Skyscraper Club, you know, maps that you understand what you're taking wildcard to, very slow maps, you know what you're going to get. Now we're seeing very aggressive maps. Border's small, Lair is big. So completely different sides of the spectrum, but both very aggressive-sided maps. So it looks exactly like Soniqs is completely switching the playstyle and not trying to win off of slowing like a wild card attack. It's more about taking the fight to SSG. And that's why I think we're exactly going to see that. And Border obviously being a good test ground, and Lair both are just, I'd imagine it's going to be a real bloodbath for both of the teams.
I mean, even the ideologies in terms of both maps, it's going to be very different from a very small map to a very big map. There's going to be a lot of moving puzzle pieces throughout both sides of this game. But I mean, it's great to start off on a Border because, like I said, this is going to be quite the slugfest for both these teams to hold these power positions and to be playing off one another again to keep the man advantage on both ends high and strong to dwindle down into that end game.
Yeah, I agree. I really think it's going to come down to those defenses because we talked about SSG losing these 1v1s all over the map, and sometimes they'll have rounds where they could just steamroll a team, and sometimes it's inconsistent. Border is a very unpredictable map. You can get shot from any single area of the map. It's almost like a bunch of 1v1s that are isolated all around the map. And SQ is really good on that front when it comes to attack. SSG needs to make sure that their defenses are clicked together so that they're not losing individual players without a trade. And I'm really looking forward to the dynamic defenses we'll see from both teams.
I mean, in the context of kind of a best of 3, we said earlier, SSG, they played a lot of long best of 1s, right? Like, they've gone the distance. Do you think that helps kind of build a little bit of fortitude in the team? I know these are all veteran players, but there's a difference, right?
I mean,
there can be a difference.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you look at their camp and their regimen and how they play inside and outside of the game, I mean, it really is a true testament of their mental fortitude. And by any means, if any team's going to have that, they're going to have that.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, you have more footage for other teams to have looked at, but these are 2 maps that there hasn't been much gameplay from SSG. But at the same time, yeah, it gets you ready for the long haul, and this is what a best of 3 is. It's all about the marathon.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like our first map of the day is ready, so I'm happy to turn it over to one of my LATAM League comrades, Flynn, and the ever-wonderful Intero for the call.
Thank you so very much. Space Station versus how long have you had that background for?
Since they sent it to me in 2020.
Okay. I appreciate that you kept it in good working order. I admittedly, when I listen to LATAM, I'm not watching when you're on the screen. Border, Space Station versus Soniqs. This is a very, very good map for Space Station. They have a 15-3 record on this map since Stage 1 2023. Robert, good friend Robbie boy, my Rob Flynn. Do you think there's any chance whatsoever that the Soniqs will be able to overcome such an incredible record and win against Space Station on Border?
Well, I think there's a couple things going against the Soniqs right now. Number one, their most recent play was against Los on Border, and their defensive start wasn't that great. They lost the first half 4-2. Then they decided to win 5 attacking rounds in a row. So that's a good start and a good omen for the Soniqs starting on the attacking side on Border. The other thing is just, like Troy even talked about it in the interview pregame, it was a slow start for the Soniqs yesterday. A rough Skyscraper against Wildcard, an interesting matchup that kind of turned into a slugfest. Like Lax and Fox both said, we weren't really anticipating being as much of a barn burner as it turned out to be. And I think for the Soniqs as well, today's got to be a better focus on starting earlier, starting hotter, and starting on the attacking side, like I said, where they did win 5 in a row against Low Stream in group stage. It's probably pretty familiar territory up against a team like SSG, who loves to swarm on their opponents.
And you can see the new Rainbow Six Share skins in the background of all those operator cards. The new Rainbow Six Share skins were announced, 2 weeks ago, roughly, somewhere in that window. I don't know if you're somewhere around there. And there it is on your screen. New bundles for your favorite teams. You see new bundles as well for organizations that we haven't seen before. Wild has a skin. Falcons have a skin. There's lots of anime. Yay! If you like anime. Boo! If you don't like anime. Either way, it is taking over the R6 Share skins. Very first defense is going to come on a pretty reliable bomb site. Not upstairs, as we might suspect, but over in bathroom and tellers.
Yeah, Yeah, Bathroom Tellers being the primary for Space Station probably means this is going to be a lengthy extension topside. Holding into Archives and Office, the hatch get opened up preemptively by Space Station, and you can see there's about a Space Station defender in every corner of the map. Border a deceptively small map in terms of real estate, and SSG love to occupy as much space on a map as possible. We see Canadian immediately swapping over to the Blitz, though. So we lose the Montaigne in the ban phase. Malusi, Azami, and Dokkaebi all follow. But boy, oh boy, when you ban one shield, you have the opportunity to just play the other one these days. And the Blitz for Canadian has been a friend, and I think right now for the Soniqs, again, starting with aggressive operators, being able to entry into the map as swiftly as possible and take the fight to Space Station will be crucial in getting this map across the finish line. This is Space Station's pick, and you definitely want to provide as much opposition as possible on it.
One player that we're going to be watching quite intently, Rob, is Ambi, who isn't involved in the first altercation. Ashen hits Rexon so hard the GN is an auto prompt that shows up in chat. But Ambi does trade right back. Goodbye to J90, who's been sensational so far this stage. As the desk highlighted, Ambi's performance has only continued to improve as he gets more and more comfortable with Canadian's system. And for people who don't want us talking about one of the most notable players in the NA League, I have bad news for you. This is going to be a best of 3. I expect all 3 maps between these teams, and Canadian will be mentioned quite a lot. He has made SQ better. He's made Ambi better, too. Halfway through the round, and both teams have lost 1 player.
Yeah, you can see right now for the Soniqs, again, temptively trying to push in through the bottom of these stairs, but it is taking a moment here. Ambi on the read, though, will catch faults, and there goes Forrest as well. Surf collecting as he's taking a little bit of damage off screen, but it leaves Benja and Ashton alone at the hands of the Doc Stim Pistol to boost back up to over 100% health. But here comes Canadian with the diffuser, looking set to drop into the bathroom hatch, and all of his friends will join him.
And Canadian is off to the party. The sound of the shield going very loud in the ears of Benjamaster's Valkyrie. Throws out a Nitro Cell, desperate attempt. Doesn't get the kill with it, but through the chaos, it's Ashen to pick off Ambi. Benja, who's been very, very good, as the stats showed, was really a quiet first round. Canadian getting the plant down. Ashen finds his heal, and, well, it's the team captain of Soniqs to pull it off. Ashen doing a considerable amount of damage, but he hasn't been able to get the Blitz out of that position. Benjamaster isolated by Surf, and now Canadian is in, and the pain train arrives on schedule, sending Ashen to the Nether Realm. I would love to hear what King Monkey himself is screaming at that monitor for Soniqs. He's obviously very fired up about this, and, well, there's a little bit of a rivalry here. Fultz won a world championship with Canadian when they were both on Space Station. It's been a long time since he played for SSG, and he's found new life in other squads, but I think it's a little bit personal for Troy. 1-0 for Soniqs.
That was a very nice shot from Ambi, continuing his fine form from yesterday as the desk, couch, whatever you want to call the group of analysts that did the pregame. I think right now for SQ as well, doing a good job of utilizing the time at their disposal. You can see about the midway point in the round. 90 seconds had elapsed, and we had yet to see a whole lot of movement inside the building for Soniqs. And opting to go site direct a little bit more than I think many of Space Station's defenders would have anticipated. Setting up for the top hold, Space Station was anticipating an entire map clear, and yet Soniqs are able to isolate East Stairs as really their entry point and their pivot point to operate out of. And at that point, tellers started to fall, and as soon as you had the top control after the retreat from Space Station, then it was time for Soniqs to re-engage top floor and drop the hatch. It was a tough one there as well, as Ashen was, like you said, Parker, spotting the ankles of Troy, but not before the diffuser went down. That essentially made the rest of the round moot. And now we see SSG cycling things up a little bit in terms of the operator location and the operator rotation. And we do see the same for the Soniqs as well, bringing out the Deimos that was teased in round number 1, but ultimately swapped off of. Ambi now getting the hands of that Deathmark tracker will afford him plenty of opportunity to get into opening engagements as he did yesterday.
You know, Rob, I don't know if you/your family have ever called this. Goodbye, Ambi, by the way. Doesn't even get to use the one death mark, as prison is his sentence. Ben just traded off right away by Surf, so you lose Ambi and the Deimos, which is quite devastating. SSG loses the Mira, which is bad, but as long as both of those black mirrors have been put down, the damage is quite minimal. It's really just your Nitro Cell that you're hurting for at this point. And obviously, Benjamaster's a great player, so you want him in the game. But I was going to say, I don't know if you use this terminology, but my family and friends love to refer to those little yappy dogs as ankle biters because they are about the size of your ankle. Well, Ashen sure was yapping an awful lot in all the games he played, and he was biting at the ankles of Troy. So a little bit ironic, I guess you could say, quite funny and coincidental. The Canadian now not on the Shield operator, instead on Twitch, getting information with the Twitch drone, but more importantly, quite a bit of value as he uses that Twitch drone to pick apart various gadgetry around the bomb site. Again, just as we were in the first round, halfway mark, and both teams down a player.
Surf sending out some Candelas, and he's already utilized one of his smoke grenades. 4 at the disposal for the Soniqs, and once again, sandwich window prepped and a run out from Fultz onto the Archives balcony, onto AC, trying to get aggressive with the SMG-11, as we've often seen Fultz do this stage, getting a lot more active in the early portions of the rounds. Now you can see everyone collecting down below the Archives balcony as Grixer is ready and waiting for a second attempt from Fultz. Everyone else for the Soniqs amassing outside of ventilation for the time being. Still plenty of smoke grenades at their disposal in their back pockets. And the Candelas, you got to worry about J9O with the top cover though, as once again we see the Soniqs not doing too much to enter into the building, trying to get a lot of work done from the exterior.
And J9O, the man of the hour, who's been very good for SSG, will fire away in the smoke, do some damage to Canadian, who survives for the time being. Grixer's died as well. He's had very minimal impact over these 2 rounds, this time playing Ash. Utility might have been used, but the kills will go to waste. Rexon and Canadian combining for less than 1 player's worth of HP. That puts an awful lot on the shoulders of Surf, who's 3-0 to start this matchup. SSG realized they have to get to the diffuser, right? Ashen waiting for the call to go for the jump out on the vents. There he goes. Surf is waiting for it. Rexon had gotten a kill just moments before. J9O rushing on in with Forrest, and it's 2 in a row.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I think I can, you know, there's about 50 kilometers between Troy and I think I can hear him from here, Rob.
There's about 100 clicks between me and Troy, and I think I can hear him as well. This is the fun side of Canadian. This is the fun side when things get active and things get very amped up. And I do think you touched on a critical point here. You know, lots of talk about the game later on this evening at the conclusion of this one between Spoit and Bolo. Dude, Ashen and Canadian. It was all the talk of the Atlanta Major. And here a year later, we're starting to see the return of that ambivalence. And I think right now for Spacestation, the tough spot to be in is that you are anticipating full map clears from the Soniqs. You are anticipating them to engage you on all fronts. And yet the Soniqs seem very comfortable and very composed on the periphery, not opting to enter into the building, not utilizing the real estate at their disposal on the map to get a lot done, instead poking and prodding and trying to find the weakness that SSG have left open. And unfortunately for Spacestation on that round, it was 1 smoke grenade. Canadian sat in the middle of it, got the plant down, and it was lights out. Like you said, nearly 20 seconds had elapsed on that defuse timer before Spacestation really got into a position to react. Caught off guard, anticipating more action elsewhere on the map, and leaving the site open as a possibility for Soniqs to make their first entry.
I mean, Soniqs was still able to pull that one off without the Deimos as well. I mean, if you wonder about how Deimos can affect a round, well, you've seen quite a lot of application at the start of rounds, but also, and more commonly we find, towards the tail end of a round. If you're an execute-driven team and you know that you're going to get that diffuser into the bomb site, Rob, then Deimos is excellent to isolate and pin down one of those defenders while you get the plant down. And more importantly, when the numbers start to dwindle, ideally in your opponent's direction, you can then use one of the remaining death marks to limit the potential damage that one of the final remaining defenders can do. It's very hard to deal with and very oppressive, if I can use that word. And SQ didn't really need him at the end of the day because Ambi died so early on. But if Ambi can live deep into a round, he will almost always have huge impact on the events surrounding the execute.
For Spacestation, we're going to try and attempt to not go 0 for 3 on defensive objectives attempted versus successfully been able to hold it. We've lost on Bathroom Tellers. We've now lost on Vent Workshop. We're now trying top floor, but here we go again. We got a Glaz and Osa, Jesse J Chick's worst nightmare. But here comes Ambi on the Amaru, and Ashen puts him to sleep immediately. The good news is that was just the attempted flank for the Sonics, and everyone else still stacking outside of Archives.
I thought Jesse Chick's worst nightmare was his calculator dying, but I mean, I guess here we are. We could also make a joke about the Edmonton Oilers losing, but I don't know how many people actually watch hockey or not. Rexon is awaiting a nitro cell or some form of explosive, which is a good call because there's still 2 in the pocket of Space Station, as right now it's the gas canisters from Forest Smoke, who sits on 2 HP, doing some serious work. Ashen, the first casualty, dying at the hands of Grixer. Rexon dies shortly thereafter. Rexon having quite a slow start. Nitro cell unsheathed, picked apart by Surf, but Benja has the last laugh. He's now under fire. Forest still on 2 HP. Things are grim for Sonics, but they do at the moment have an HP advantage. And there's still 30 seconds left to find these last 2 players for Space Station and prevent them from getting that diffuser down. The diffuser, which, by the way, has just been retrieved by Canadian. Grixer will be the one to cover here. Behind the Talon shield, there goes the plant. Grixer narrowing himself down, keeping himself healthy. Diffuser cannot go down because of the nitro cell. Now is Grixer taking some damage. A nice spray transfer. Forest dies to the track stingers, and it's a rush around as now Grixer needs to get the diffuser down. I don't think he's gonna have time. No, he decides to get Canadian up, and it's a blunder for the ages. He doesn't have time to get the diffuser down and keep the timer running, and Space Station wins by the skin of their teeth.
Holy, just a lot of frantic energy in that round. Man advantage for Space Station, but like you said, health advantage for the Sonics on that attack. They reacquired the diffuser, they got into the objective, and all of a sudden, in the span of, I think, half a second, pretty sure it was Forrest, who was on 2 HP, downed himself by walking into a grid track, and then Grixer on the immediate snap to Benja. It's the jump out that saves the round, and then Grixer playing hot potato between the diffuser and attempting to revive Canadian. I'm sure there were plenty of question marks strewn in chat. I mean, if you're trying to put that down at zeros on the clock, you're probably still getting rushed on and losing the round anyway, so having cover really was probably the only win condition. Just an unfortunate sequence of events that you didn't have another half second to put the case on the down to get into the extension of time. If you're putting the plant down on zeros, the round will continue. You don't have the case down on the ground when the clock hits zeros, it's good night. So Space Station, they get their first defensive victory on border. Arguably one they didn't have much control of for the majority of that round, but they'll take them any way they come.
Well, I mean, we look at the defenders as pulling off a perfect rotation, and obviously that is not what we see, but same for the attackers. If you can honestly win most of your rounds on attack, 3 rounds on attack in particular would be devastating for Space Station, then you're in great shape for the second half. Sonics obviously were not able to pull that off. Ashen, in typical fashion, will look for an early knockout punch, or at very minimum, oh my, and a punch to knock his SQ team off their stride, and he gets the job done. A nice play. Ambi dies again. It's been a rough go for Ambi the last 3 rounds. I think you can make a very credible argument, Rob, that Ambi's impact since round 1 ended has been very minimal.
I was gonna say, since the conclusion of round 1, I don't think Ambi's lived more than a cumulative 90 seconds. Regardless, Ashen will get traded out once again, so the early aggression pays off, targeting Ambi, the destroyer of worlds from yesterday's game. But Ashen as well felled, and now CCTV vacated, which means that we can again start progressing forward for the Sonics. And this is seemingly a switch up to the ethos of the strategy on the attacking side. There was a lot of focus on trying to get work done from outside the building early on for the Sonics, but now occupying a lot of space inside of CCTV as they look to progress through the map and attack towards ventilation and workshop. But here comes Grixer now on the Twitch outside of the vent window as Rexon collects off screen onto Benja and will laugh in his face as well. The collection as well continues. Outside of the vent window, Canadian picks up Forest, and now it's a 2v4 for Space Station to fight out of.
Canadian, who, by the way, has not technically died because he was bleeding out in the previous round. It's not really a position that we tend to see the captain of Soniqs in. SSG's numbers continue to get worse. Canadian finds a second kill as Fultz is removed. And now J90 is the last line of defense upstairs, and he's on the run, getting some damage done before finding Surf in the wrong direction. This record on this map for Space Station is mighty good, but Soniqs are putting in quite the work to make SSG have to battle back in this second half.
Yeah, like I touched on right before we got into this game, the Soniqs' most recent play on Border was against Los, and they did lose 4 defenses to Los, who statistically are not on an equal playing field to a team like Space Station. So if you're an SSG fan, there's still hopium. There's still something in the gas tank for later on. But for right now, I mean, even 2 rounds ago, it looked like the Soniqs were in control until the very dire seconds. And a heroic play made by Space Station got them their first round. Outside of that, this has been Soniqs in the driver's seat and taking control of momentum and really understanding how to manipulate the game script to their favor, making Space Station react to the situations that the Soniqs are going to lay in place for them. It's a difficult thing to do on not only a map like Border, but also from the attacking side, to dictate the pace and dictate how the map plays out. Space Station, seemingly at the behest of whatever Soniqs want to do, they're going to have to make a course correction here, as even though they've been very aggressive early on and successful at picking off Ambi, the rest of the team is still stepping up and answering the call.
Seems awfully silly to just say this, but I mean, if Ambi wakes up, this game it can go in a very different direction. J90 has been a standout player for this SSG squad. He's got a single kill to his name. Benjamaster's only got 2. Forrest yet to get a kill. That's not where you want to be. Surf alone has 6 kills, which is just 3 behind the entirety of SSG, and Canadian is off to the races. Already looking for an isolation to try to track down J90. He's picked off first by Rexon, but Benja actually strikes first before anybody else does. Fultz finds himself in an awkward spot, inches away from Canadian, and oh my goodness, again, that pain train, it's always on schedule today, Rob. Ashen and Forrest are the last 2 standing. We are not even a minute into this round, and there goes the death mark. Rexon on that operator, on Deimos. He lives a little bit longer than Ambi. Ambi is still alive, by the way. It means that Ashen is the only player on SSG unaccounted for. Forrest has been found over inside of bathroom behind the deployable shield. He manages to pick off Canadian. For Forrest to get his very first kill, that's a big win. Now Forrest will have to deal with the other 3 players of Soniqs, and there's about to be another death mark on the board for Rexon. Grixer and Ambi are still in play too. You can make a very credible argument that these are the 3 prongs of the attack for SQ, and boy, oh boy, do they strike right in the heart of SSG. Another round for Soniqs.
Well, again, it's the Soniqs dictating the pace, dictating how they want to play, and Space Station's attempted response to that was we are going to converge on the blitz streaming through customs, and the Soniqs response was a handful of lead to the face for every challenger who made their arrival. 3 defenders, 1 from above towards CCTV and 2 directly inside of customs. They all try to converge on Canadian and the blitz, and yet they find nothing for it. And the Soniqs continue to play the trades as everyone for Space Station tries to, again, panic, react, and get back to the bomb site. Space Station, like I said, coming into this game, they love to occupy every corner of the map. They believe in themselves to be able to handle 1v1 situations. The depth of talent on this roster is given a lot of leash. The Soniqs at the moment are playing much tighter together. They're playing trades way more effectively, and they are also playing SSG like a fiddle right now, reading the book that they want to bring on defense every time. And for the time being, the Soniqs right now are 1 incredible jump out of radio window away from being up 5-0 and nearly taking SSG's map away from them. Like you said, with their record this year and the last 2 years on this map as well, be quite the feat to try and book themselves a ticket back to Montreal.
I think both of these teams have a very good shot of representing this region at Montreal. I think both of them would do very well internationally. I will be intrigued to see how Soniqs do internationally, just because, well, they've got a whole new look, a whole new identity. And I'll say the exact same thing about Dark Zero when they play in our matchup in probably about 3-ish hours or so. It really depends on how long it takes for us to get there. As exciting as Space Station versus Soniqs is, Rob, I gotta say, Dark Zero and M80 is gonna be an absolute nightmare for both of those teams, and I'm gonna enjoy every moment of it. I don't know about you. It's gonna be very entertaining. M80 in their matchup against the Manchester Major defending major champs of C9BC absolutely slaughtered them, a 7-5, 7-5. And M80 looked spectacular. Hyper in particular, looking like he's managed to shake off all that rust and is back to find form. Whereas Soniqs, it's a little bit of struggles against Wildcard, needing all 3 maps to square that one away. But today, SQ showed up to play, and they are doing very well on border.
Yeah, I talked about it coming in as well as we were loading up, that you don't want to replicate the same slow start the Soniqs had yesterday. Ambi's allowed to live for more than 90 seconds in the round. He gets the opener, but he cannot tack on for more. His faults with the response will shut down Ambi's reign on the armory wall. And it's a double repel back here for Space Station as they retreat deep inside of Archives and Office now. As this is good control afforded to Soniqs, as it should be mentioned as well. This is Space Station attempting their 4th objective. They have run the gauntlet here on border, opting to go to customs and supply, seemingly out of desperation for traction in this match. Benja will get droned out inside of Workshop, and again, he is on an island. The closest SSG defender to him, you could argue, is either J9O in sight or Ashen upstairs. They're about equidistant apart, but nonetheless, it's Benja with an SMG-11 against the world, being entrusted with so much control inside a Workshop. He's been droned out, and he doesn't look like he's going to last much longer.
Oh, Benja expecting Grixer, and he says goodbye. Benja winning a world championship on G2 at SI in Montreal, and he is eager to go back into that city and make some serious noise. He manages to take out Rexon, but it's a perfect trade. It's odd we don't see those all that much these days. Canadian thinks he's under watch, being surveilled at some point. He and Surf combining for 11 kills. That's quite the tally. There's a read through the wall, but Canadian is in trouble. He sees that there's a ping as well, and it's Ashen with the super shorty out to tackle that obstacle. Surf running out of time. J9O finishes him off. And no 5-1 Rob, as you had speculated, 4-2. But SQ comes out ahead through that first half.
Yeah, it was a good play, honestly, for Benja, being able to prolong that defense with the castle barricade set up at the bottom of metal stairs, really funneling attackers into his direction. But like I said, he was on intel. He was being actively yellow pinged from a drone or a camera, and he just had to win his gunfight with an SMG-11 against 2 attackers bearing down on him. And he did so. He won one, and then won a second one technically against Rexon. They traded off of one another, but it still brought the man count down to a reasonable position, and with no time really on the clock for the Soniqs to operate with, they had to flood. And there was no more response after that, as Canadian was isolated inside of ventilation with the diffuser, which is never a position you want to be in. And I think for Space Station, a good salvaging of the first half, but nonetheless, it's still a precarious situation to enter the side swap in. A game where you really haven't looked like you've been in control of many rounds, and it really does feel like the momentum is still heavily on the side of the Soniqs. Now is the opportunity, though, with their aggressive playstyle and the way that Space Station love to get in their opponents' faces and take as many engagements early in rounds as possible. They might be able to flip the script on this game now going to the attacking side.
Kind of funny that it was that tertiary site that tripped them up both times. You know, Soniqs had an opportunity to get a full rotation themselves, and they couldn't get the job done. They won bathroom tellers and they won vent workshop. They lost armory. They won ventilation, they win bathroom, and then they lose customs because, well, Space Station didn't want to go up to armory. It is a little bit odd that that armory bomb site's only been played one time through that first half. Obviously, as you see on your screen, the positioning of those 2 bombs suggests that we're on armory, and this is usually all reliable when it comes to this bomb site. Teams know it very, very well, and there's a lot of different ways that you can pull off and execute here. I'm a little perplexed by Canadian's position, by the way. He's trying to smoke off the top stairs and outside onto the balcony, but I mean, he's at top east. That's not exactly where you want to smoke to be. You typically want to stack up on either the A door, which is over by Archives, or you want to stop somebody from being able to just walk right in. And that's, you know, that's Surf, not Fultz. By the way, it shows Fultz on your screen, but we were actually watching one of the defenders as the DMR in the hands of the Aruni will not be put to use. Ashen striking first. Space Station Ashen in particular doing very well to draw first blood, Rob, and well, SSG just walked right into the bomb site.
They walk right in, they deal with the mirror window from an elevated Twitch drone. The plant is going down as Canadian has been downed, but not out on his return through 90. As Ambi tries to push into CC with his comrade of Rexon, but they all fall down at the end. Space Station isolating Canadian on those east stairs and deciding, okay, we're not going to deal with you. We go site direct for the armory door, and there really isn't much opposition left there.
This next round is going to be the real test here. Can Space Station remain as in focus as Forest webcam? That is the question that needs to be answered. Soniqs obviously wanted to stretch their lead with an early victory on this second half and put SSG in a position where they might have to call their timeout, but it will not occur. This border map is almost a 50-50 map. There is not a huge difference between attackers and defenders. So, I mean, it's not like we're expecting either team to suddenly jump out to a lead because of the side that they play on. It's been played 34 rounds, which puts it among the lowest maps. It's actually tied with Layer as the second least played map. Skyscraper is the least played map in North America. And I mean, we have Layer coming up next, no matter what happens here. But 18 rounds won by the attackers, 16 rounds won by the defenders. I mean, yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, it's an even 50-50 map. And if you just look at the first half, 4 attacking round victories, 2 defender victories, and you just had another attacking round victory, means that right now this matchup appears to be skewing in favor of the attackers, which is great for Space Station. For Soniqs, it means you have to hold SSG to at least those 4 rounds. Ideally less, so you can win in regulation, but honestly, when you get to this level in the playoffs, Rob, I don't think overtime is really much of a surprise for anybody. It would not shock me at all if we ended up going into extra innings here on Border.
Wouldn't be shocking, though, and there's no more point dropping. Obviously, you got 3 points in the group stage for a regulation win and only 2 points for an overtime win. Here we are again. Canadian roaming on the smoke, away from the bomb site, this time down inside of waiting room. As he was on the east stairs, he was red pinged out, and now he's returned to the scene of the crime, which is a Selma breach onto the passport wall. And he can continue to wander. He hears shots ringing out from behind him. He turns tail to run towards Tellers. Interesting decision, honestly, for an operator that really has a lot of rounds played in the history of Rainbow Six Siege on the objective, with an area denial utility that is really well designed for plant denial. He's opted to go for a venture elsewhere. Ambi, though, will also go for a venture out these stairs, say goodnight to Ashen and Fultz as the diffuser as well. Not sure if Ambi caught that in his melee, but at the very least, he's established the Soniqs a 2-man advantage.
Well, this is not what SSG wanted by any stretch of the imagination, especially not when you've not clawed your way back, but you were 2 rounds away from drawing even, and you'd managed, or 1 round away from drawing even, and you'd won 2 rounds in a row. Ambi is eviscerating every single player that he comes across in this server, Rob. It's all up to Forrest and J90, both of whom find themselves at the bottom of the standings for SSG, which is an odd thing to say because usually they are far better in terms of kills, J90 in particular. There hasn't been a lot of damage done to Soniqs. Yeah, Ambi and Rexon have taken their beating, but they're still very alive. Forrest through the soft wall. He's 2 and 8. Those are dreadful numbers in a very important match. Forrest dies at the hands of Rexon, and now with 40 seconds left, J90 has plenty of time to think about next steps. And those steps actually involve some damage. As he walks up middle, he takes some damage from the barbed wire. They know exactly where he is, and multiple players from SQ wanted that kill, but only one can get it. Grixer does it with a shotgun out, and the lead for SQ goes back to 2 rounds.
Well, we paid a lot of attention early days to Canadian on the roam as the smoke, and he had just about nothing to do with the round by the end of it. That is going to prompt Space Station to call their attack on Border. Their own map pick. They now stand 1 round away from being put on match point on it, and 2 rounds away from losing it outright before we go to Layer, which was the Soniqs pick. I think right now for Space Station, getting caught off guard by Ambi was one thing. The re-aggression for the top of these stairs and Ambi winning out, just kind of exemplifying some of that dominance that Ambi displayed yesterday. And man, you got to feel for Spacestation, who did a very good job of cordoning him off and isolating him early in this match. Ambi, not much of a presence beyond round 1, as you mentioned earlier, Parker, and yet he's come alive on the defensive side, given some freedom, given some room to roam, stretch his legs, and have an immediate impact up against Spacestation. I think for Spacestation as well, this opportunity for the attack timeout comes at a moment where the Soniqs still have yet to really find a home on defense. Losing Armory so convincingly, like you said, often the primary bomb site. We go to a Vent Workshop defense that had very little to do with Vent Workshop itself. So the Soniqs, much like Spacestation were on the defensive side, will be looking to maintain a safe haven of a defensive bomb site to win off of and have a pivot point. But they're going to try their hand at Bathroom and Tellers. No customs and no reattempt of the Armory for the time being.
There was a shield being brought by SSG, but they've thought otherwise of it, at least as time goes on. Technically, Rob could have been 2 shields with both the Blitz and the Blackbeard, as Blackbeard is a shield operator. Whether his effectiveness or not is to be discussed. He still technically is a shield operator. The only Blackbeard that I can remember seeing in NA was from Los, if memory serves me correctly, and it was, I think it was Sexy Cake playing the operator, and it did not go well. So, which should, by the way, should surprise very few people with that operator. So, either way, first advance will be on this jail/prison wall. EMP goes out, Selma goes out as well. Open up a small window that can be easily vaulted through. You've still got 2 exothermic charges by Forest that will be used elsewhere, as SSG for the next 2.5 minutes will battle against this Bathroom Teller's bomb site and try to prevent Soniqs from going to match point.
You can see SSG as well. We saw a lot of creative lineups on the attacking side coming out from the Soniqs. This attacking roster, like you said, swapping off the Blackbeard and the Blitz that was teased early on, but ultimately thought better of, just trying to go back to basics. And Benja will do just that, assessing that Workshop was free and open to his skeleton key, making a path for himself to journey on through to Workshop and catch the opener, as Grixer seemingly had intel on it, but could not win against the power of that rate of fire on the C8. And it's a nice start here for Spacestation. Again, coming out of the conclusion of their tactical timeout, their only opportunity to kind of pause the momentum that the Soniqs were amassing. Now, attempting to clear the rest of the top floor. They got their opener on the objective, but they're not going to flood into the bomb site and overplay their hand. Take their advantage topside and continue to press the clear, knowing that they are 1 down on the objective. Ooh. And Rexen, though, will immediately equalize onto the man who got the opener. Benja decapitated on top of AC. And all of a sudden, Spacestation now in a bit of a hole, as they've lost their soft destruction to utilize from above, and now they're facing a head-on war up against a man who is overheating on Rexen.
It's quite the shot to make with a non-magnified T5 scope, by the way. I'm quite stunned that that one was pulled off the way it was, but I mean, Rexen is a terrific player. We've talked about this an awful lot. Historically, when Rexen has failed to show up, Sonic's success rate is very, very poor. He is an integral part of this team, and now with 8 kills, leading the entire team, though Ambi, Grixer, and Surf are all tied with 7 kills right behind, you're gonna need a big performance from Rexen. Even bigger now, as Surf has died to Ashen. Rexen is holding court over lobby. He'll lose some of that protection as Fultz charges on in. Rexen had thrown those Q mines and faded away, and Fultz will find them with his feet. 20 seconds remaining. Canadian with 1 pick. SSG's numbers continue to drop. Forrest with Diffuser, he's 2-8. He needs some kills, or he needs the rest of his team to get them as he walks that Diffuser into the bomb site, but he has to get there first. Ashen decapitating Ambi, as you so eloquently put it earlier. Fultz dropped. Ashen looking for another kill. Rexen and Canadian just need to survive the next few seconds. Diffuser going down by Forrest. Ashen over top. 9 kills. Rexen swinging around, and SSG doesn't give them the kill. They peel off the plant, but kill or no kill, they give the round to Soniqs. I would like to once again reiterate, Rob, since stage 1 of 2023, which would have been about March of last year, SSG is 15-3 on this map, and they are 3 minutes away from it becoming 15-4.
This is just a very impressive response from the Soniqs. Again, facing early trepidation with that opening pick. Grixer felled inside of Bathroom, and yet I was very concerned that we were going to see a Soniqs team that was going to overreact and try to flood back down towards the bomb site and give the top control for free. And I think maybe even that is what Spacestation anticipated. And yet they met the war on all fronts. Top side, like you said, Rexon, when he performs well where he goes, the Soniqs go. He did quite well, not only with that kill onto AC onto Benja to level the ban count, but also with the goo mines and playing the clock. So much utility was utilized by Spacestation attempting to find Rexon's location, and he continued to persevere and continued to live on and lay these traps around that would always take 3 or 4 seconds off the clock from Spacestation. I did not catch in the replays, but there were 3 defenders alive with about 15 seconds left for the Soniqs, and I think collectively they had 100 health between all 3 of them. And yet again, that ability to persevere in the map and survive, again, on a map that you can die through just about every wall and every ceiling and every floor, every surface on this map feels like it's made of cardboard, and yet they still pressed on, they persevered, they got themselves on a match point on SSG's map.
I mean, if you're going to do any finger pointing at this current point in time, I think, unfortunately, the person you have to wag your finger at this moment is J90. Not so much Forest. I mean, Forest, obviously, you want him getting kills, but J90 on his roles and the player that he is, he needs to have more than 3 kills against these tough adversaries. Ashen has shown up. Benja has shown up. Admittedly, their numbers are not particularly great. Ashen is a +1 right now. Benja is dead even at 8 kills, 8 deaths. Forest is not doing well, but I mean, I kind of give Forrest a pass because the things that he brings to the table and the things that he brings to the team are extremely valuable outside of kills. Fultz is another player I guess you could point your finger at, but he plays a support role on this map, so he's not always involved in the killing. Canadian being picked off first as the smoke is an excellent start for SSG. They also grab Ambi, who peeks and gets destroyed by Fultz, so I guess he heard me speaking ill of him and tightened up his game. What a lead for Spacestation with half the round to go.
Absolutely. Once again, Benja getting active early with that C8, getting into the building, getting the opener, this time onto Canadian. Again, the roaming smoke. But we do see the reemergence of shield play coming out from Spacestation with their backs against the wall, opting to put Forrest on that blitz. And this is one of those keyhole operators that he can play that can really disturb defenses and really make lives miserable on the defensive side. Grixer taking damage off screen as well, seemingly from down below as Benja stays alive, but he gets flanked upon by Rexon, dropping down below. We saw this in the previous round. Now the bomb site, which is Armory and Archives, is still held, and Forrest will flash out Rexon on the middle stairs, and now they all flood into the objective.
And there's the shield. Forrest catches Surf, completely blind like a sitting duck. Grixer tossing up the desperate Nitro cell, and he's isolated. Is Forrest going to get a third? Yes, he will. What a round by Spacestation. Forrest, in particular. I'd like to take credit for all the kills that round for the players that I called out. You're very welcome, Spacestation. Unit, if you were listening to this, please put the check in the mail. You're very welcome. Spacestation obviously have a lot of work to do. Whenever they take a timeout, which they already have, we always like to praise Callout as their coach. His conversion rate as a coach since SI in Montreal 2 years ago has been extraordinarily good. His vision and his idea and his understanding of the game, all of those things are terrific, and the players trust him unconditionally. I mean, the core of this roster has been together for so long. They were called Ape at one point. A whole bunch of them were on E United. A lot of people will look at this as being the old Astralis roster as well. You bring in a young player like Ashen, who has very limited experience playing at a top level and makes his Tier 1 debut for Spacestation. Then you add Benjamaster, who's played with, I think you could argue, one of the most experienced and notorious teams in the world, which is G2. And you've got quite a mix of players that all bring different things to the table. Callout being a steady hand on that tiller really does help get the best out of these players. And I mean, a good coach can only do so much, right? You have to rely on the players to be able to do things in the moment, because a coach only gets 2 opportunities at most to talk to their team during a match, and that's your timeout and your opponent's timeout. Can't talk to them between rounds, can't give any calls when the round is actually active. So, I mean, as good as Callout is, this really does fall onto the shoulders of the players, but if there is a coach that's going to be able to talk them through this, it's Callout.
Well, seems like Space Station have also learned their lesson from the round previous, which was, yeah, Forrest is good on Blitz, and Blitz works well at getting into the map and really just being a bullet sponge anywhere we want to go. So we see the return from Forrest after a 3K, and now running headlong into the mirror windows will be Ashen with the Ash charges that could be capable of dispatching those. But for the time being, the mirror window stands tall, and Ashen taking damage, Rexen on the swing, and he'll go for 2! Rexen obliterating Ashen and Fultz outside a break room, and all of a sudden, those mirror windows, they will stand the test of time, and now Space Station peeling back to the bomb site. Out of desperation, Canadian will cut down Benja. It's just the Blitz still left alive from Forrest, and J9O's Twitch walking into a goo mine to keep Space Station alive on their own map.
This is grim stuff for Space Station, Rob. What a record. Both of our analysts said that they thought Space Station had the leg up, and based on the numbers and based on the way that Soniqs played yesterday, I would have actually agreed with them. I would have said that this is Space Station's matchup to lose. And so far, it has proven to be theirs to lose. At the current moment, Soniqs are about to beat them unless something goes terribly awry. Forrest, who has started picking up kills, which is excellent for the team, has a much harder job ahead of him, Rob, and that's getting the diffuser down successfully. That will pit J9O in a 1v4, which is really quite dreadful, and an unfortunate situation to find himself in. Surf, who is upstairs holding over top of the bomb sites, goes undroned. Forrest gets punished. J9O, as the last attempt to save Space Station's map, he won't get it done. Ambi, the final kill, and Soniqs are 1 map away.
And again, you can see how animated Canadian is. We saw some energy coming out from Grixer. Canadian is not done showing his animation and energy. He will go on.
Rob, he knows he can't talk to them, right? Like, they can't hear him.
I think he believes that if he yells loud enough, Space Station will hear him through the server. Which, to be fair, he does get their attention pretty well on LAN, as we've seen from after movies, after events.
You and I are about equidistant from Canadian, so when I said that I could probably hear him, I imagine you can too, unless that the paneling and stuff that you have in your basement is a little bit too much. But either way, Soniqs steal Space Station's map away from them, and Soniqs are up 1-0 on the hunt for the Montreal Major. We'll be right back with more Rainbow Six.
Who can help
He's on
Damien?
Arcos.
Pablo,
No
he
one.
got me.
Damien, if you have to run an armory and jump to supply. Run an armory, jump to supply if you have
Let's
to.
on Arcos.
I have
Gonna
a
go
trap.
middle.
Windows open. Windows open.
I'm out. Yep.
I got
I
I have
got
metal.
Arcos.
I have metal. I have
Yo,
metal.
drop
Dropped
cage.
off. Let's fucking go!
Fuck you,
Yo, good
motherfucker.
fucking power, Richie. Good job.
Richie,
Go.
fuck you did, bro.
Let's fucking get it.
Bro, you should have seen my.
Well, they did it. They did it, ladies and gentlemen. Did it fight. I love those listen-ins at the end because it's always fun to hear what they have to say, and I love the trash. But Soniqs, they win on map 1. They win on SSG's map pick. They have all the reason in the world to unleash every blue word in the book right there. They did a great job.
Yeah, it really gives a nice little insight as to how like the team is preparing. I mean, I love how it's a 4v2. They get the kill, make it a 4v1, and Canadian is still IGLing, saying, you know, Damien, which is Surf, if you got to jump outside, run outside to run back, like everything matters. Even if it's a 4v1, not letting any single round slip away from them. I mean, I think that's really the testament of this game for them, because they literally were always losing the first pick, and somehow still SQ was dominating on getting that trade immediately back and then consistently landsliding it, not letting SSG's over-aggression early on capitalize on it. And we talked about it being a really big brawl compared to the defensive side. I think that's exactly what we saw. But after SQ would get that trade back, shut down the opening kill that usually Ashen would get, SQ just froze it. They froze it. They froze SSG. There was no way for SSG to make any type of connection amongst the players that were spread out along the defense.
I mean, 8 out of those 11 engagements, I mean, went in SSG's favor. But again, Soniqs were just immediately trading that back. And like I said, this was going to be a situation of both teams moving their players plays around the map, working together, and that's exactly what we're seeing on Soniqs' end. But this is the performance that I wanted to see from Soniqs, especially going into Wildcard, and why I thought that Wildcard game should have been a complete landslide from Soniqs, because this is the Soniqs that we all know and have loved, been watching so far throughout the stage. And this was a stellar performance, especially going against SSGs, one of their best maps. But this was also worrisome for me with SSGs because they hadn't played it throughout the stage. They haven't had game day reps. And, you know, you talked about this with me, Korbeck, that they've played 7 out of 9 maps, and you were saying, is this a cause for concern because they're showing their map pool so early on? No, because they had a game day rep. They know how they wanted to play against SSG, and this is exactly what they did and went into exactly what we were talking about of what was going to be kind of displayed going into this game. So now we find ourselves going to the second map. I want to see this same sort of style of play, the same sort of executes that we saw coming from SQ, and how they were maneuvering around the map that really was solidifying them these games and this round 1. Well, this game 1.
Yeah, and you know, it wasn't obviously an impeccable performance, right, from SQ. There was a couple of mistakes. They're still the strongest attacking team, but like round 3, some decision-making probably could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, it was, you know, there are definitely a little bit of hiccups. I think the Ying, the initial strat was definitely to Ying the guy back there on the wall, so then Ambi could come up for that kill. Unfortunately, doesn't have a beautiful shot from Grixer. But yeah, it does end up becoming a little bit of a hiccup here. I wish Rexon would have waited just a second sooner, maybe had a little bit of a follow-up. But I mean, they do a good job of trying to bring this back, but ultimately it just wasn't enough in the end. I mean, huge double kill from Grixer right there, getting the triple kill, and then a little fumble here of trying to decide whether he wants to get the bomb, whether he wants to revive Troy. But I can give him the respect for reviving his IGL and losing that round, because it didn't matter, because they ended up closing it out at the end of the day. They got it done. They're pushing themselves into a second map looking nice.
Yeah, even though they did lose that round, I mean, the basics is what you saw, that SQ traded every single kill. And I really love that, because that's exactly what got them the win in the first place. I mean, can't attest to you enough how SSG continuously was getting that opening kill. And even with that opening kill, they were just doing nothing with it. SQ would shut out the player that was playing aggressive. They'd have a nice 2-on-1 on him. They'd always get that kill back and then fall back immediately. They wouldn't overextend, and I think that was the downfall for SSG, was overextending. Even rounds where Ashen would get that opening kill or Benja would get that opening kill, they'd keep going for more. They didn't know when to really reel it in and play the site, and I think that's just a really good preparation from SQ, because we saw how slow they were playing against Wildcard, and the game was a lot closer than we expected. Now they played against this aggressive SSG team, and they have such a good understanding of what SSG is going to throw at them, that they're just snowballing them and slowing them down.
I mean, we're going to Lair next, right? Which is a much bigger map. You guys made that point in the pre-show. This is a map that there's a lot of space. There's a lot of room almost to get lost in Lair. Does that still kind of continue to favor the form that we're seeing coming out of Soniqs?
Well, when you're talking about the team play and the working together, I mean, in a smaller map, it is a little easier to funnel people together and make them force the team play, whereas Lair, it is bigger. You are going to have to be a little more dynamic with your play style and maybe putting someone off on an island by themselves just to hold something down. But I still expect Soniqs to be coming out on top of here, just how well we saw them play together. If they can use that shield, use that blitz specifically off Canadian, and keep gaining that control and go for some of these fast rushes at any given moment. So I don't think this is a bad map for Soniqs. Obviously, when we did see them last, it was against OXG. That was a really close game, to say the least. But I mean, still overall, Soniqs came back, they mustered back their victory, and they ended up closing it out 8-6.
Yeah, I mean, to put it simply, Border is a smaller map, so obviously it forces you to play off of your teammates. That's not what SSG was doing, and they were getting those first picks. So it just leaves me in a position to be scared for SSG going into Lair because of how big it is, especially on the defense. If SSG plays the exact same way, the over-aggression, yes, it was getting that first pick, but now you don't have the smaller map to force you to play off of your team. It's not going to be as close if you play the exact same way if you're SSG, and that's what leads me to be fearful for SSG going into it. I know that their attacks will definitely be a lot faster. We did see them fight a little bit harder when they got to attack on Border, but at that point, the damage was already done, and we can't see that damage be done on Lair again. I need to see a different, more teamwork-oriented defense from them if they want to be able to at least have an easier split, not a 4-2.
And the beauty, again, of a best of 3 is you can just wipe that first that map away and take away from, be like, where do we go wrong? What was happening? What could we have done differently? And now you're going to go into SQ's map, which we've seen more than enough handful of times where the opponent wins the map that they really should. They should have won their map. Yeah, exactly. So it is easy enough for, we talk about resilience with SSG. It is very easy for them to just pick back up off of this, wipe that first game away, and come into here and implement everything that they weren't doing into that border map. But again, you are going against Soniqs. The team that they did beat recently on this map was M80. It was a 7-5, another close game. But in terms of just sheer structure, SQ's always going to have that. So it is going to be a little harder to find yourself back into a corner if you can't start out strong, where we need to see SSG from the get-go.
To go back to the idea of Lair being a big map and what have you, is it going to be a problem for Soniqs to be able to trade those kills back, to take the man advantage back at the start if you've still got Ash and, farming kills at the beginning of every round on a bigger map?
I think both teams have a lot to take away from Border, like you just said. I think SQ's biggest weakness was getting that opening kill. So I'd imagine going into this map, they're going to be a lot slower paced and force the trades immediately rather than losing someone straight out. Now for SSG, it's the reverse. It's getting that first kill and then falling back, making sure to respect the man advantage and play off your team.
Well, it looks like our teams are ready to go, so I'll hand you over to two stalwart scions of the Great North. It's Intero and Flynn.
I gotta say, Rob, I always love Corbeck's tosses to us. Stalwarts of the Great White North. I think he must have mistaken you for Jesse. That's fine. I did ask Corbeck this question in DMs, but he is being a very good employee and is not checking his DMs midway through the match. Here's my question to you, Corbeck. Are you a giant? You look very, very tall. You look like Laxing and Foxay stacked on top of each other are both shorter than you as one unit. Rob, I don't know if you think that's the same, but Corbeck looks very, very tall. And frankly, Corbeck, we've worked together on a bunch of regional broadcasts, and I gotta say, I think you do a stellar job. It has been a pleasure working with you, and it is great to see you on the NAL. And I hope that we don't only have as few matches as possible, because this one could be a quick one, Rob. This could be 2-0 for Soniqs.
It could be, and it is nice to be with Corbeck, as he's my mainstay host over on LATAM, and now we get to share the NAL day, at least for one day, because Jesse had more important things to do today. But like you said,
he's at a wedding, by the way, just in case you're curious.
Yeah, he chose a wedding that isn't his own over Canadian versus Ashen and Spoit versus Bolo. So I'll take this day any day of the week. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to be here. You go to all the weddings you want, Jesse. But I think I do want more out of this game. And I think the Sonics starting on the attacking side on Lair, as it is their map pick, could be interesting. Now, both of these teams have played Lair once. Spacestation played it against Cloud9 Beast Coast, and they won 7-5. That's a very formidable opponent. That's the reigning major champions who lost in playoffs yesterday. That's a very strong team in North America. Soniqs went overtime. They did win, but they went to overtime against OXG, who are not the reigning major champions, who did not participate in the playoffs yesterday and will not participate in the playoffs this weekend. So very different records, but like I said, with the Soniqs having their most recent play of Border against Los and having it be not the greatest of performances in terms of scoreline, they still matched it against SSG. It was a 7-4 against Los on Border, the 7-4 against Spacestation on Border. For the Soniqs, maybe you throw that OXG result out the window. Maybe you've learned some lessons from your first game day rep, as Laxing was talking about on this map. They have played a breadth of maps in the pool. They have exposed a lot, but they also have had the opportunity to learn some lessons and make some tweaks as time goes on in this stage.
First bomb site that they're going to defend will be upstairs. There will be the office and Rainbow Six room, which I always thought was quite an intriguing name. Yeah. But, I mean, you see, it's Deimos' office. He's got a giant Deimos helmet, logo, icon, whatever you'd like, behind the chair. Lair's pick rate has been very low in North America, as we stated in the Border matchup. Both of those maps that have been played so far today, Border and now Lair, started the day with 34 rounds played. Obviously, Border just saw the conclusion, add to their tally. But as for Lair, it is a defender-sided map. 19 rounds favoring the defenders, 15 rounds for the attackers. But the sample size is relatively small. I think that's only 3 plays, if memory serves correctly. So Not a lot to go off of. This will give us a much better idea. And Soniqs actually got the very first kill. They picked up Benjamaster, and then Ambi dies shortly thereafter. But Surf, just as he did on Border, has a great start to this map.
Yeah, it seemed like both teams were very ready and willing to demonstrate that they wanted to put their foot through the bottom of the floor when it comes to hitting the gas pedal. Benja trying to run out from the bottom of Warehouse, and also Grixer utilizing a Candela to try and aid the entrance of Ambi down below, down towards bunks and green stairs. But neither really being successful for either side. We stand equal at a 4v4. Now we get to a more predictable tempo on this round. We've got Selmas coming out onto deployable shields and onto server walls. You can see Forest on the Clash having to react to the force being brought by the Soniqs, but Surf from down below, his second kill with that Supernova this round. And now it's a man advantage reestablished as the Candelas come soaring in.
Soaring, flying, some would even say twirling. Spacestation now with their shotguns out, trying to meet the aggression of Soniqs as they advance closer to the bomb site. It's some shield-on-shield action. How savory that is. Canadian trying his best to deal with Forrest. J90 has taken quite a lot of damage, but he's still upright. Now he's gone to Rexon. Grixer eliminated at the hands of Forrest, and now Surf is dropped inside of the hallway, getting closer to this bomb site. Canadian boxed out at the moment, dancing around the gas, and he's dropped by the electricity of the Clash, leaving just Rexon, who might be able to pick up a kill here, doing an awful lot of damage to Forrest in the process. He's running out of time, so what does he have to do? Get Canadian up. The last two players from Spacestation licking their chops. Is it Ashton? Is it Forrest to get the final kill? Neither. The clock will give Spacestation round number 1.
Oh, we are... That is a round of all time right there for Spacestation and Soniqs. Lots of site control very early on relative to the rest of the execute for the Soniqs, but unfortunately not a lot getting done because Forrest is a constant nuisance on the rotations back towards bathrooms to get that response kill onto Surf, but also retreating back through server in the server hallway. And just lots of re-aggression there for the Soniqs in the 2v2. Rexon and Canadian trying to work themselves out of a jam. Really, Forrest continuing to deal death blow after death blow, 5 HP at a time with the Clash electrocution. Now for the Soniqs, you feel pretty good about your opening to that round, but the conclusion leaves a lot to be desired. Spacestation, they get their first victory, able to withstand the absolute malarkey that was going on in and around the objective, brought to you by Soniqs. And they will head downstairs towards the basement to try and stack some defensive wins. In stark contrast to the map we just witnessed on Border, this map does contain quite a lot of real estate. It does afford some defensive flexibility, and globally, it does have a pretty decent defender win rate. I'm interested to see if Spacestation will go for more peaks. We saw Benja be unsuccessful in a warehouse door run out, as he got read by Surf Shotgun. But I wouldn't be surprised to see SSG losing their own map of Border, again, want to take task up against the Soniqs and really force them to take the opening engagements and win them. Again, the 1v1s, the Spacestation side, they do love them.
I was actually intrigued to look at the layer stats as you were talking about them across all regions, and one thing that really there's two things that really jump out to me. Number one, that in Brazil, this map has been played an awful lot. I've been casting a lot of Brazil, and we've seen this map a number of times. It doesn't really shock me. Some of the teams really, really like to go here, but it hasn't been played once in Japan, which kind of shocked me. Like, I expected it to. It's been played twice in Korea, and I think just from my numbers, I think Japan's the only region that hasn't played it. I could be incorrect here, but yeah, I mean, the numbers are all over the place, and it's a very low pick rate, irrespective of the numbers. Now, this round has just completely imploded, by the way, Rob. While I was literally talking about numbers, everybody died. Yep. Spacestation is reduced to just Fultz and J90. Soniqs lost Rexon. That's really it. And as Canadian clears out this middle floor, attempting to tackle the basement bomb site, he's going to be read by Fultz. He's just standing and waiting. He's got a read on the blitz, so he sees exactly where he is. That compels J90 into action, who looks up towards the stairs as the smoke tossed out by the attackers will obscure the blitz's location, but for now. Solis was also losing out on her tracker, so she's not going to be able to use it. It will have to regenerate, which means that gadget will be down until it gets back. 1 minute to go. Fultz and J90 so far evading these players from Soniqs.
I've had many a debate with our good friend Jesse Jeffrey Chick about this bomb site and the roaming potential.
Hold on, is his middle name really Jeffrey?
No,
Okay.
it's Jonathan, but he got called Jeffrey by the guy who gave him his diploma, so I like calling him Jesse Jeffrey Chick. Anyway, plants going down because the last 2 remaining members for the Space Station defense are off the bomb site. Yes, it does include a Solus, and yes, there is bulletproof cameras downstairs, but you've lost the control of the real estate itself. So heading into the post plant now, we're going to see J90 and Fault's attempt to return to the objective, but you have so many full health attackers in waiting positions. Double dropping the hatch does not seem like the most optimal solution.
I mean, I really admire that Fultz and J90 have lasted this long, Rob, but what do you do? So you're running out of time. The round was effectively over. Ambi gets the very final kill. It's a formality. But yeah, I mean, they managed to survive a lot longer than I thought they would. But just really an upsettingly lackluster defense from Space Station that particular round, taking engagements a little bit too early. And I think there might be something to this for Soniqs. If Soniqs allow SSG to get entrenched, then Space Station can use the map to their advantage. This is a gigantic map. If you've got utility accounted for, the attackers have a lot of work to do before they can, pinch the bomb site. If SQ can just forego a lot of that. Ambi's been hitting these shots all day. If you can forego that and just get into the bomb site very, very quickly, or at least close to the bomb site, good things are going to happen, and that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, my debates with Jesse about the viability of roaming on that bomb site really come down to being able to maintain hatch control and being able to have purview over the objective. Because lab and lab support are such enormous rooms themselves, the plantable area in that bomb site, it's a lot to cover. Yes, the Solus helps, but as you mentioned, Parker, the recent change to Solus heading into the season was that you can't see the diffuser for free. You have to spend an overclock to see that it is the diffuser. And even at that, it might be a bait, as we used to see in days past, with the diffuser left on the ground in the bomb site as opposed to being attempted to plant. So it's a tricky situation with the Solus to have the perfect timing, the perfect intuition of when to use the overclock and understand that the plant's coming out. And really, the Soniqs did a wonderful job of completely ignoring anything that Space Station wanted to employ off the bomb site. Getting site direct, getting the opener onto Forest, the smoke as well, just allows Canadian on the Blitz to go wherever the hell he wants and do whatever he wants to do. And you even saw him just holding a flank, because at that point, there was no one left on the bomb site after Soniqs had chewed through the anchors. And it was an easy mop-up. Like we said, trying to return to the bomb site, it was a valiant attempt, but there wasn't much there. So we get a rotation now of bomb sites. Space Station trying their third in 3 rounds in towards bunks. And this is a bomb site as well with an exterior breach that has been difficult to plant on. But when it has, again, the post plant and the crossfire you're able to establish on this bomb site is pretty lethal. So again, making sure you're denying entry to the objective itself will be crucial for Space Station.
Ashen with the very first pick on the Canadian. That is a devastating loss. And Troy already having a rougher start to this layer matchup, Rob, than he did at any point on border. Very high value utility operator in Capital. Cap gets a fair bit of play on most maps at this point, and with how smoke heavy Soniqs have made their executes, well, that's a rough position for the team to be in, as they have no backup. It's just all flashes, breaches, and pocket EMPs. Surf will tear through the floor as he assesses the main entry into the bomb site down below. That breach has been opened and cleared, so somebody from Soniqs can go there, but Surf will now rotate around. That's not Forest. That is Benjamaster. That is correct. Benjamaster, by the way, also having a rough start to this map.
Yeah, it's not the flood of openers that we were seeing on border, but Ashen does have a nice lineup here, awaiting the approach from the oncoming ram of Surf. R4C against a UMP. And there's been many years of Rainbow Six history where the R4C has reigned exceptionally dominant over the UMP in many gunfights. But the Waltz in from Surf in towards operations. Again, staring down Office, waiting for the approach of the defenders who do hold the mantle of top control, making sure that there's no soft destruction being employed by the defense to disrupt any plant attempts as the exterior breach was opened up. But now everyone pouring towards the bomb site. The Soniqs getting picked apart, but at least Grixer has one response.
Oh, there's that super shorty again from Ashen. Didn't he do the exact same thing to Soniqs on border? Last 2 players from SQ will drop on in, and Surf, who was one of the 2 pickups for SQ this stage, showing his worth. The pre-fire now will take out Surf, leaving Ambi as last man standing, and the keep away that will happen from Ashen as he types in the chat. Lair, far closer than we saw on border, but SSG at the moment has the edge. They're up 2-1.
Yeah, I'm sure Ashen. So we only saw the lol in all chat. I'm sure whatever followed that had something to do with why are you walking diffuser in reception? Because that was really the weak point for the Sonics on their attack, was the diffuser is in a different area code, even though we have site control. We're able to clear out top, we're able to drop hatch in towards armory, and yet the diffuser is sitting at Ashen's feet, and he's holding that thing for dear life, because that is the objective of the video game on the attacking side, is to plant the bomb. And you can even see the look through the wall there from Surf of, how am I going to get that in 12 seconds? And the simple answer was, you're not. So for Space Station, they get their second successful defense. And I was wrong about what I said in the beginning of the previous round. Now we go to bunks. That was armory. And now we get again SSG through 4 rounds playing 4 different objectives. We saw them play customs on border. They won customs on border. So Space Station having a flurry of a time away from primary objectives. And yet Basement, which has been a reliable secondary bomb site globally, doesn't work out so well. So they're going to try their hand at a bunks defense.
Yeah, the one thing I like about new maps getting added to the map pool, Rob, is going through which of the bomb sites are particularly favored. Now, with most maps, the bottom floor and top floor bomb sites tend to do quite well. That would mean lab and lab support down below, and then obviously office and Rainbow Six Room above. Just leaves the 2 middle floor bomb sites. And, you know, when we get to Montreal, the one thing that we will do is be able to grab information from every single region and be able to say with confidence, how does Lair play out internationally? Is there a trend line here? You noted, the numbers show, that Lair is a defender-sided map at this current point in time. But again, relatively small sample sizes. The one region where the map is played the most in Brazil, it's like 60-40, which is quite honestly a defender-sided map. And quite stark. It's not like 55-45 like a lot of maps that we see at the moment. But again, maps tend to start out very defender-sided just as teams learn them, because it's hard to attack a map that you don't know all that well. The more comfortable and the more familiar teams get, the more that the attackers will be able to do a good job. But not even that. It can swing both ways. Attacker-sided maps can go in favor of the defenders. How will Lair shake out? That's going to be the fun thing to watch. Halfway point in this round. Fultz is dead. Surf almost died. That's where we stand.
Yeah, it was very early aggression onto Surf. He's dropped 20 HP. He wasn't downed and revived. He just took that exact amount of damage in the process, and yet it's the Sonics for the time being, as Ashen will respond with an M590 to the face of Surf to, at the very least, get one back. But also that hold at the top of the green stairs for Space Station's defense picked apart by one breaching charge. I'm pretty sure a soft breach charge onto the castle window on the Skybridge hallway also took out the deployable shield in the hallway, which would have been just a tough error for Space Station, having that utility set up in a position where both could be claimed for the price of one. At the end of the day, though, this is still man advantage for Sonics. Flank control as well, as Ashen forced our top side over towards storage, and trying to hold down the objective as all 3 defenders are upstairs, trying to utilize the soft destruction in towards bunks, which is very powerful. There aren't many places you can plant for free in the objective, and that is what Sonics are about to learn.
Ashen with one pick, and around the corner he goes with shotgun in hand. That puts Canadian in an awkward spot. He cannot get that diffuser down. He doesn't know where the last players are. He finds Forrest. That's actually Rexon to do that damage. And Rexon is still hunting for more. Right now in Projector, looking up through the holes in the ground. Ashen picks off Canadian. He's got 4 kills so far, and Rexon will deny the ace. Maybe, hold on. Ashen has a golden opportunity, and he'll do it. An ace for Ashen, and Space Station's lead grows by 1.
And Ashen proving what is possible with the verticality on this map. An ace from up above on high without ever really setting foot in the bomb site, apart from the moment he spawned into existence on that round. And for Ashen, that's a great motivation booster, because border was opening pick territory for Ashen, especially on the defensive side. but like Fox and Lax talked about on the couch, not a lot followed after that. So it feels like a momentum killer if you're able to do things right in the beginnings of rounds, but it doesn't pay off and doesn't give you the result that was intended after the fact. So for Ashen, able to follow through all the way to the finish line on the ace, and for Space Station, like I said, finding home on tertiary and I don't know the tertiary word. I think I just invented a word for the 4th bomb site, but the 4th bomb site, because we don't often see 4 sites played by any team in any competitive rotation, and yet we've seen it from Space Station on back-to-back maps. And I think for Space Station as well, this is starting to feel like maybe we avoid the basement, we continue our run of rotation of the top floor and middle floor bomb sites, and we try to walk into the side swap with a nice lead.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers and we go off of what was spoken of earlier, 4-2, which is, I know everybody hears it and they always think the same thing. God, every single side is always 4-2, isn't it? Yep. I mean, we expect it to be a 4-2 half for Space Station. They are primed and ready, which means these last 2 rounds in the first half should just bounce back and forth. But honestly, Soniqs have not been particularly confidence-inspiring on this map so far. They have really struggled to enter. They have struggled to use the information to capitalize on SSG players. And credit needs to go towards Space Station for how fluid they are playing on this defense. They are everywhere, all at the same time. It is causing Soniqs to have to re-drone and re-drone and re-drone. And that's always bad, but on the biggest map in the game, that's devastating. Rexon with the first kill, hits Ashen with the LOL in chat.
We're going to continue to see everyone type back and forth, and that's a really nice opening pick to get after Ashen just went on the heater of a lifetime, picking up an ace to shut down your attempted plant. This time you're able to silence him in the first minute of the preceding round. Still got Canadian on the blitz, being slowed down by the clash. This is an encounter we saw the last time this objective was held by Space Station, but now frag grenades in response down the server hallway. He'll fend off Forrest momentarily, but he still stands on 125 health, causing a lot of distraction and disruption for these Soniqs attackers. And he will again stare someone down from the display window. This is Grixer outside of the bathroom double window, waiting for the approach. And yet the Soniqs, after acquiring that opening pick, they've done nearly all the health necessary to Benja, and finally a headshot will do the final blow as Benja will fall. It's a 5v3 advantage once again for the Soniqs, but the site control still remains nearly impervious for Space Station.
Shotgun on the come up for Fultz as he catches AMB looking. And that's a very crucial avenue now being held by Space Station as they are still behind in numbers. Fultz looking for one more, and he'll have to pick his poison. 2 separate players from Soniqs inches away. His focus is on Grixer, who he'll have to deal with a shotgun, and Grixer puzzlingly wins that engagement with a single point of HP. Talk about too close for comfort. J90 out-muscling Rexon. Grixer's been dropped, and Surf is the last one up, and he's on a collie. That is not great. Looking for the non-shield is... Oh my! He quickscopes Forrest! A drop from J90. The sidearm will come out. Forrest trying to draw him out, and Forrest saves the round! Goodness gracious, what an exhilarating finish to a round that probably should have gone the way of Space Station.
Oh my dear Lord, Surf, we're turning back the clock, hitting a quick scope and then a near 360 at the end with the SMG9, and you can see everyone on the Soniqs reactions to that, not least of which I'm pretty sure it was Grixer as well, who on that 1 HP remaining, on the Forez, vaulted in through display window and got downed and ultimately finished off by barbed wire. So welcome to the new update, Grixer. And again, Surf, disgusting! Absolutely disgusting on the Cali. You said it, not the best operator to be on in a 1v2, but absolutely lethal shots coming out from Surf. And I do want to give him his flowers that he has been a star performer, maybe not often talked about on this Soniqs roster, given the changes that transpired over the offseason. But still a standout performer on this roster nonetheless. And now for Space Station. Interesting they don't opt to run it back, but maybe feeling like their top floor defense has been figured out a little bit. They certainly do look a little more refined on the map. It seems like the Soniqs may be a little newer to this map in relative to what Space Station's been able to do just by their play so far. But they picked it, most likely knowing that their defenses would be strong. And now for Space Station, trying to at least secure that coveted 4-2 half that you mentioned, Parker. going back downstairs to the other bomb site that they were unsuccessful at holding.
It's a frustrating one for SSG. If Soniqs can come out of this first half, Rob, 3-3, then you got to imagine this will be their map. Or at very least, they will be in excellent position for this to become their map, at which point Soniqs would advance to the Montreal Major, and in doing so, would do it in just 2 maps. We had some matches in Brazil, by the way, played earlier today, locking in teams, and spoilers, what was he looking at?
Stock door, I guess, is my best guess.
What's Forrest looking at? Oh my, Fultz almost dies as well. As he's picked apart, Grix are missing an opportunity for 2 kills in very quick order. The one thing that I praised this SSG defense for, if you recall, Rob, was how they are all over the map. And SQ is having a great degree of difficulty gaining map control. They cannot get a good foothold whatsoever. Well, the last round they were able to do so, and now they're doing it yet again. SSG losing Forrest and Benja. Benja is about to go the first half without a single kill. He was the big splash that was made by Spacestation in the offseason stages ago. That is not the result that you should have. Oh my. Ashton with 10 kills though, so he's more than made up for it. Just a little bit over 1 minute to go, and no damage right now has been done to SQ.
Well, that's the thing, and again, the Soniqs able to very swiftly and very easily wander their way in. Grixer with another one on default as he walks down the blue stairs. And really, there's no opposition being brought by Spacestation. Finally pulling one back, but Rexon, he'll clean up for 2 to wrap up the round. And the Soniqs, they decimate anchors, they return to positions upstairs, and continue to run straight through everyone that Spacestation tried to send back to the bomb site. We are tied at the side swap.
You saw the frustration on the face of Spacestation after that border matchup. They looked defeated. Benja in particular had his hands up and was leaned back in his chair, not looking like the happiest player on the squad. You don't have very much time to recenter yourself for the next match, especially when you've lost. I mean, even if you win, but it's a very frustrating win, you have to get your head in the game, because you don't have a lot of time between these matches. I think, all told, I think it's like 10 minutes or something like that between map 1 and map 2. So if you are being afflicted by the tilt, as we refer to it as, you got to shake it off. Benja is 0-5. Spacestation won 3 rounds. Even in the rounds where they won, Benja died in all but 1 of them. That's not what you want from this player. He's going to be on frag-oriented roles entering the building. And I will keep a close eye on how Spacestation are able to take map control, because Soniqs struggled through the first 3 to 4 rounds, but they started to find their footing. They started to find their groove. Unfortunately for them, they'd already let a couple rounds get out ahead of them. Can SSG have a strong start and a quick start, showing confidence on their entry, or will they end up stepping into the same traps that Sonic stepped into?
What we saw for Spacestation as well, early attacks on border, not quite going the way they would have wanted, still picking up a couple successes, but really it was when Forrest got onto the blitz and got that 3K after we bemoaned his performance that the tides really started to turn for Spacestation. So we see the blitz, it's not vacant for very long. First opportunity for Spacestation and Forrest specifically to bring the operator, they will do so. The Montaigne's still banned out, so we go back to back with the Montaigne banned, and immediately you just hop on the other shield, which is the blitz. I think for Spacestation, you talked about the response to border. We saw it in their face cams. You're right in saying that Benja and Ashen seemed very despondent and very dejected after the performance on border. I will give credit to Forrest and J9O, who I think were singing throughout the majority of their time on the face cams before we jumped into map 2. So 2 sides of the same coin having very different reactions to the prep for layer. But the result so far for Spacestation does not seem as promising as maybe Forrest's vocal abilities. And I think right now for Spacestation, we are attempting to go site direct, opting to forego much of a clear, not trying to get any verticality from down below. We walk in through the storage hallway, we start ripping open Selmas into the breach, and now Forrest has the opportunity to check his flank momentarily, but he will be the tip of the spear charging in to the objective.
Surf sitting in Rainbow Six room. One of the two bomb sites, staring in Rexon's direction, as now that opening has given a window that the blitz of Forest can look through. Took Forest a while to get his feet under him this round. He seems to have found it already. Border was a slow start, but his value was big in the later rounds, even if SSG came up empty-handed. If Forest can turn on the Jets for the attack, SSG will be in great shape. Benja dies 0-6, still searching for his very first kill. That is not good for Spacestation whatsoever. Forest had taken some damage at the breach as well. Surf is down for the count. So all told, all things even. Vault in now, heading towards the B-bomb site. Forest in display, out-dueled by the Legion, but Ashen is there for backup. Ambi with one. Ashen's patience is rewarded. And suddenly, another will swing towards the window. Rexon keeping numbers close. My God, the kill onto J90. Half of the battle is occurring in chat. Soniqs looking for their very first lead on this map, and it's the old teammates to do battle. Canadian and Fultz in a 1v1. Canadian will play keep away. Fultz no access to the diffuser, and no time for Spacestation to land it safely. Soniqs take the lead on Lair.
Man, the Soniqs showing poise and also commitment to the game plan, which was we are swinging display window no matter what. Ambi, he's able to down off the blitz, clean up his down, goes for the swing, and Ashen cuts down too. Does not matter. Here comes Rexon. Everybody, flood display window. This is where we need to be. This is where the war is won. And they were correct in that assumption. And they committed to the bit, for lack of a better term. And now, like you saw at the end there, Canadian identifying Fultz did not have control of that diffuser, lost in the flood of bodies at the base of that display hallway, and plays keep away, like you said. Nice poise under pressure. It's a very powerful and poignant moment for Canadian to be able to evade the purview of Fultz, immediately duck downstairs and say, listen, you don't have time and you don't have case. This is a free defensive round win to start off the second half. And it's exactly where the Soniqs want to be, continuing the momentum that they picked up in their final two attacking rounds, carrying it over on their map choice of Lair onto the defensive side. They will also opt to go downstairs to the basement, where Spacestation went 0 for 2, and the Soniqs, specifically on this bomb site, picked Spacestation apart. So we'll see if the Soniqs have a slightly different answer to how to hold lab and lab support.
Oh, still throws me for a loop, just as a side note. When Sledge being the 3 armor, you hear him step and how he sounds. It still is like, okay, oh, okay, he's a heavy boy. I'm so not used to the changes to the SAS operators still, despite the fact that Thatcher in particular is actually probably my most played attacker. Well, maybe not as of late, not since they introduced the pocket EMPs. Versatility is the spice of life. Forest will get the first look at the doorway. It's being heavily defended by SQ. Fultz will drone on in and encounter the defenders, giving Forest pause, but for a moment. Soft walls and reinforced walls will cause issues for SSG, but they've got plenty of tools to cut through it. They'll rush in over top of the bomb site. Down goes Rexon. He was baited by Forest. Fultz credited with that kill, and now it's Forest under fire as he finds himself inside a medical. Following up on the Fenrir, who's blind as a bat. SSG dominating Soniqs this round. 1 minute and 40 seconds to go, and Surf is the last man standing. What was the question I asked a couple rounds ago, Rob, was can SSG find their footing quickly and do something that SQ struggled to do through 4 rounds? The answer so far seems to be yes. I mean, Soniqs obviously won that very first round, but SSG have pivoted and done so quite gracefully. Nice kill by Surf onto Ashen. The walls, the proverbial walls, will close in on him as Blitz lurks menacingly. J90 credit with the final kill, and we have a tie game yet again.
Well, both teams with similar defensive philosophies for how to hold this bomb site. Both teams starkly contrasting attacking philosophies, and yet the result is the same. The bomb site doesn't matter much. That is tough for the Soniqs. We see Spacestation entertain the entire roam clear, as opposed to what we saw from the Soniqs, which was go directly to the objective, pick off the anchors, and wait for the return of the roamers. This time around, Spacestation on their attack decide we are going to directly engage with the roamers, and we are going to absolutely obliterate them all the same. different philosophies, same results, and much needed momentum now established for Space Station to say, listen, you did this to us on attack, we're going to do it to you on attack. What you can do, we can do better. And credit to Surf, he did stop it from being a flawless round, but I'm going to call it a flawless round in spirit, because good job, you got one. You still lost the round at the end of the day, and everyone was coming for you. I think right now for the beginning of this game, how quickly it trended towards Space Station's favor on the defensive side, and then those last couple rounds for the Soniqs to be able to steer out of the skid, pick up the momentum, and generate power on the offense before swapping to the defense was a worrying sign. But if Space Station can match what the Soniqs were bringing in terms of that energy and the execute on a roam clear, as opposed to just going site directly like we saw from the Soniqs, then this feels like a map that's destined for overtime.
Waiting on issues with the tech pause here. We've had a few tech pauses today over on the Brazil broadcast that was done by Stokes and Lynx earlier, and your good friend Jonah and Fastan, I believe, were the four that were on it. I was doing errands today, so I didn't get to actually watch the Brazil matches live, but as we do with most of the big games, we'll go back and re-watch them before an international event just to prepare, which I do it whether I'm attending the event or not. I'm not leaking my attendance, just in case anybody is curious. This tends to be a rather long tech pause, and I don't think we have any information as to what is going on, but if we do, we will relay it to you. Issues with Surf connecting to the lobby. Apparently he crashed, but he is back in, so we should be live in action, Rob, in just a matter of moments. I know from experience, and so do you when you played at this level, that reconnecting to lobbies takes an awful long time, and if you crash, it is not usually a quick fix. This will serve, though, as a good pause for these teams to regroup. I think after what we saw in these previous two rounds, in the start of the second half, that is that both of these teams so far have been very evenly matched. I think SSG was a little bit knocked off stride by how good Soniqs were on border. And again, that record really does speak for itself. 15-3 was Space Station's record on border from March 2023 till now. This is, that's a we're going to win this map kind of record. And SQ surprised them by winning. Now we go to Lair, which was picked by Soniqs, and SSG have really brought the heat. You talked about the teams that had played this map, as both SSG and SQ had played it in the NAL earlier. And I got to ask you, are you in any way surprised by what you're seeing in terms of the results?
I am a little intrigued with just how both teams seem to have differing philosophies on how to play the map, and we're going to get that early days. We've seen it with the early days of Nighthaven Labs, and even when other maps were brought in their time. Teams will develop different ideas of what they believe is the most efficient or the most powerful way that suits them to play the map, and then we get like a stage or a season or an event in, and most of the ideas will coalesce into one meta, and then we'll move on from there. And it seems like Space Station and Soniqs have very different philosophies, at least on the attacking side, when it comes to how they want to operate, how much map control they feel they need, how much they need to worry about a roam as compared to just being able to flat out ignore it. And I think for Space Station, their philosophy is the more widely adopted one, which is taking the roam head on. And we saw from the Soniqs, every once in a while evading the roam and going site direct was beneficial, but more often than not they were caught off by some verticality or caught off by a roam earlier on in this matchup. I think right now for Space Station, they have the right idea. It's about being able to execute in a timely manner just because of how large Lair is. It's so much real estate that if you are going to go for a full kill, if you are going to try and take down a bunker setup of 3 to 4 defenders away from the objective, it gives you very little time and utility to actually put the bomb down.
Oh my, a nice nitro cell from Ambi, and Forrest is left scratching his head at that one. Ambi, not psyched at all. He knows there's more work to be done. As now Benjo will wrap around looking for a pick onto the Fenrir Canadian. Canadian's been a sitting duck, a target dummy so far through this matchup. His utility will persist, which is good because he himself will not. Active gadgets are good, but if you die, then they're gone, and so are you. So the passive gadgets of Fenrir will at least help for the time being. Ashen with 14 kills, by the way, almost the same tally as the rest of his team. As Benja is starting to get some kills, which is really nice, at least when it comes to the timing of the matchup. Unfortunately for Spacestation, they've fallen by the wayside. Fultz will be nearsighted as he wanders into one of those dread mines, and he will have to find the last 3 players of Soniqs in the final 30 seconds, Rob, or else SQ will regain the lead.
Yeah, it's another one of those Armory defenses that doesn't take place on Armory, and Fultz seemingly not aware of Surf's positioning up on these bookshelves inside of R6 room as they will do battle in a 1v1 on 12 HP. Fultz will whip out the sidearm and hit the headshot, dropping Hatch into the objective now in the middle of briefing, putting the plant down, but with 10 seconds ticking away and 2 defenders standing, it is just a matter of time as Grixer will put Fultz to sleep, and they will inch closer and closer to that match and series point here with a ticket to Montreal on the line.
SQ can taste it, they can feel it, and they are closing in on it. And for the second map in a row, Space Station has to use their timeout first, Rob. And I mean, Ashen's got a pen in hand, which means he's going to start writing down the things that Callout says. Again, if you did not watch Border, we might have glazed Callout a little bit, to use some terminology that the kids these days are saying, in the sense that Callout is a tremendously effective captain, or well, coach, rather. One thing I will say, and I always say whenever we bring this up though, is that coaches can only do so much. They're not active in the server, and they don't get to control round by round interactions of these players. If Space Station hears his information but can't act on it, it's not necessarily an indication of a poor coach or even of poor players. It can just be that sometimes you're trying to roll a ball uphill and you're all really tired and the ball's a little bit too heavy. As for this particular matchup, Soniqs also get to talk to their coach, who is the new coach of this team. Goddess retired from esports and retired from coaching, of course. And by bringing in Canadian as your IGL and bringing Super in as your coach with all the information and knowledge that he has at his disposal, it has made Soniqs a better team. And they are just 2 rounds away from making it to Montreal. Space Station better hope that timeout works.
Space Station returning to the Blitz play that was pretty successful on Border and has been overall pretty adept right now on Lair. I think the worrying sign here again for Space Station, as I talked about, they want to face a roam or an offsite hold head on, and yet all of their clear, all of their utility, even the Blitz in that round previous, just decimated upon arrival. There wasn't really an opportunity for anyone to force a defender back to site. They all stayed upstairs and continued to fight, and Space Station continued to fall. And now, like you say, 2 rounds away from clinching a Montreal major spot, whether it be the 1 or the 2 seed, that'll be decided tomorrow. But for the Soniqs, you've got to feel pretty good being on your map, now on the defensive side, with the lead and an opportunity to continue to stunt the progression from Space Station. But like you said as well, this timeout coming out from Space Station, perfectly timed, and yet Rexon will continue to drop laughs in the all chat. And again, it's a Nitrocell claiming the life of Forest. The Blitz is the opening pick. So that spearheaded approach for Space Station on attempting to clear out these roamers, and this time just off-site anchors as the objective is upstairs. It will be no more. The Blitz removed from play without much effect in consecutive rounds.
Yeah, that's probably the worst operator that you can see on the side of Space Station to lose first. And Forrest has not had the most successful day so far. His numbers were underwater on Border. And he did start to wake up towards the tail end of that map, Rob, but the problem was it was too little too late. And most of those kills did not have much impact on the actual match itself. CSSG relying on these last 4 remaining players. Like we've said, Ashen has been the superstar for SSG, very formidable on opening picks, showing a lot of success on defense, and then in turn, doing the same on attack. Half of the round has gone by, and Soniqs are in an excellent spot. All 3 gas canisters still in pocket for Ambi. Goo mines still in pocket for Grixer as more generate. The longer that we see SSG take to get towards this bomb site, the worse it will get for them. Ambi maybe not spacing those gas canisters out as well as he could have, as Benjamaster strikes and eliminates Canadian. Canadian has not had a very good game by any stretch of the imagination. He has been downright bad here on Lair. Takes a while to teach an old dog new tricks. Maybe that applies to the map as well, as Canadian maybe grapples with not knowing layer as well as he could, but 2 and 7 is the worst stat line in the lobby. He provides other value, which is good, just as we said about Forrest on that border match, but you have to think that this would be a different game if Canadian wasn't being free farmed at this point. Final 40 seconds, and both teams sit in a 4v4.
Spacestation opting to go for something we haven't seen in a very long time, which is vertical grenade use to clear bandits and then to clear the position of the mezzanine shield, not the shield itself. You see the amassing with Spacestation attackers on the office door from mezzanine, waiting to approach, and now Surf will get cut down behind the office desk. The last Toxic Babe will come out from Ambi in response! What a shot on the SMG-11 towards Ashen to level the man count, and Rexon will tag in for another. The gas will continue to bleed Spacestation dry as J9O hits the floor. It's just Fultz alone on 2 HP, and the timer will expire. We are getting closer to midnight for Spacestation. The Soniqs are a match point and series point.
If they win, they go to the upper bracket final where both of the teams will qualify for the major. The good news is that even if you lose, there is still another opportunity. Wildcard and Cloud9 Beast Coast both lost their matches yesterday, meaning that their only way to the major is through the LCQs. And one of these teams will also join them down there. Whether it's Spacestation and Soniqs or Dark Zero or M80, one of them will fail to grab a spot, as there are 4 teams remaining and only 3 spots on the line here in the playoffs. A victory for Soniqs here in this round will clinch their spot at the major. They will go into the upper bracket final where they will face off against the winner of Dark Zero M80. That's, of course, if they win. But the biggest prize will be that they have secured their spot at the major in Montreal. And honestly, is it a Montreal event if Troy's not present? It always feels like kind of date with destiny when people like him and Pengu and Fabian and all of them are there. It just feels so good from an outsider's perspective. Soniqs have their work cut out for them, though, because these next 2 rounds for SSG could go either way. These have been quite scrappy rounds. It has not inspired confidence in SQ with the way that they have played this. But the one thing that has happened over these last 2 rounds, Rob, is Soniqs have struck first, and they have defanged part of SSG's execute very early in the round. SSG have failed to recover from that stumble. If Soniqs can do that again, you have to fear the worst for SSG.
Well, we talked about Benja's struggles in the first half on layer, and it's been a valiant attempt at returning to form. Now he's taken some damage and an early engagement. Soniqs unable to capitalize with a headshot to really deal the final killing blow of momentum away from SSG. But here comes Rexon to try and do all the same, but no, it's Ashen who hits a crucial headshot onto Rexon inside a warehouse. Able to utilize the drone and able to spot Rexon overextending, and of course reciprocates with the lol in all chat. So the opening pick acquired, but Ashen missing another flank coming out from Spacestation. Ambi immediately returns to where his teammate had fallen, and promptly everybody hits him with a lol in the chat.
Like I said, half of the battle is being fought in all chat. It's not even in the server right now. Ashen's 16 kills could be gone for the remainder of this series if it breaks in favor of Soniqs. You have to keep Canadian alive. They've put him on an operator that tends to have more staying power in the clash. He can play sheltered minutes in and around the bomb site. And now the task for SSG is to simply get into the building. I don't know if Canadian saw J9O as he peeked the window. Now he's been spotted. So he's outside, waiting for the next entry point. A shotgun on stairs, blue stairs for Surf, trained directly at center mass as Canadian guards that window. J9O still thinks that he might want to peek in that direction. He's going to rely an awful lot on Benja, who's playing above, as is Fultz. Benja was holding that kill hole. Fultz will mask the sound of his drop with that breach. Cricks are picking off Fultz, though. It doesn't matter if they hear him or not. They still see him, and now it's Canadian to walk up into the engagement. Forrest, the one being targeted. J9O fixed, taken out. It's all Forrest who loses the duel. The first North American team to clinch a spot at the Montreal Major. The Soniqs.
Unbelievable performance. And what was that? 7-4, 7-4. Border and layer. Clinical performance by the Soniqs, a team that had to scramble to put this roster together coming into the stage. The last-minute change opened up the opportunity to bring Canadian in, and they are the first team to qualify for the Montreal Major, like you said, Parker. And you can see, again, the animation on Troy's face. Canadian absolutely loving this opportunity to continue to prove some doubters wrong and put himself into a position to be in Montreal to try and win another event in that town.
Excellently done by Soniqs. Congratulations on your spot in Montreal. We still got one more matchup to go. DZ M80 will finish off the show after the break. We'll be right back.
Yo, drop please. Going K3. Good job, Dan.
I got you,
Yo,
Pop. I got you.
Drop.
Stay tucked, Pop. I have your push. Close left. 2.
Yo,
peek
blitz
the window, peek the window.
Pop, swing.
I can't swing, I can't swing.
Dead, Andy, dead.
Okay.
Last 2, in office. Blitz, gun up.
Oh shit!
Let's go!
Oh
Come
shit!
on, bro.
I don't think Envy can believe what just happened. Welcome back to the Philadelphia studio. Here I'm Corbeck. Alongside me we got Laxing and Foxe. Soniqs have punched their ticket to the Montreal Major, and they did in style.
This is the Soniqs that we were seeing all throughout the stage. Unfortunately, we didn't see it in the last game against C9BC or against Wildcard. But I mean, I honestly thought SSG was going to be the ones to take it today just based off how they've been looking and where Soniqs were falling off. But I mean, again, this is exactly why we've been talking up Soniqs, how well they've been looking, and they are demonstrating here, and they have now punched their ticket to Montreal.
Yeah, SSG's definitely been having some struggles around the board. I mean, I feel like it always comes down to moments where their backs are against the wall. When the pressure is the highest for these qualifying games, you know, they always end up making it to these events, but they're always through the LCQ down to the last straw. So maybe it's just something that comes with pressure throughout a stage, that when they finally feel like they have no options left, that's when they play the best. But I mean, they just came up short, and Soniqs played amazing today. I mean, especially on Lair. I mean, we wanted a definite win from one of these two teams, and a definite win it was from Soniqs. They really played very well together, very coordinated. I mean, the way that everybody was communicating, I mean, you could even hear it in the end game, like just down to the last wire. Every single moment, everybody was locked in, fully focusing on what the game plan was, and it was a really great showing from Soniqs.
Yeah, and you know, I'll be honest with you guys, about round maybe 6, 7 there on Layers, Spacestation Gaming, they look rattled. You could see it on the cameras. They didn't have answers to the things that Soniqs was doing, and the adaptability of the Soniqs to take on what was being thrown at them by SSG was so impressive.
I mean, just again to highlight the Soniqs, I mean, there was one round where the blitz and someone jumped through display window, but you literally immediately saw, once those Legion traps went off, you saw all 4 players from Soniqs immediately pivot and focus on just getting that kill, not even believing that there was 2 players, there was just one there, but you saw just the dedication to just solidify that kill and to make sure that they had the numbers on. I mean, the teamwork and coordination from them was excellent throughout this map.
Well, it looks like we have Canadian here on the line with us. Who else could we have on the back of a giant Soniqs win? The GOAT. Welcome, Canadian. Congratulations on your win there, my man. And you're going to Montreal. You know, it's old territory for you, I'm sure, but no doubt you're excited.
Yes, I am.
Well, obviously, Wildcard put up a little bit more of a fight yesterday than you guys may have expected. How did you rally the team coming into this match today against what should have been an even more difficult opponent?
I think Ambi may have kind of talked about it, or at least I talked about it in my post-game interview. I don't know if that was rolled pre-game or not. But honestly, Seth Super, he basically talked to us between maps and simply said, like, Wildcard wanted it more than us in that first map of Skyscraper, and honestly, that was exactly true. I think they put in more effort, and they wanted to win the map more, and they played like it. And I think since that point, we've been playing like we want to win,
for sure, and
we want to win more than anyone else that we're in the server with, and we played like it, and I think we fully embodied that today. Yeah.
Well, Troy, I want to say congratulations on punching your ticket to Montreal, but I just want to ask you, I mean, how do you feel? Obviously, from the big roster change of going from Dark Zero now to Soniqs, and now you punching your ticket to Montreal with this roster. No one was sure what everything was going to look like, how it was going to shake up for the stage, but you got it done. You and the team got it done. How do you feel personally?
I feel great. I'm super confident in this team. We have so many amazing players, and I think not only that, but we have players with such great attitudes too, which is, you know, that's not that common, honestly.
For sure.
You know, the attitude problems, honestly, it comes with talent a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
And I've been super impressed, and I think our biggest struggle was almost putting that pressure and that expectation on ourselves of, you know, like, oh, I'm not on DZ anymore. You know, how's this team gonna be? We should be good on paper, like, and I think that pressure got to us a little bit, and I think we were playing scared to lose. And I think literally, like I said, after that first map yesterday, after Seth said that to us, I think it lit a fire under us, and I think we're playing like there's no one hungrier.
Absolutely.
Like we've been fucking starved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely see that. Before the game started, we were saying on the desk that we wanted to see a definite win, regardless of who won. The team that win needed to be one that made a statement. Now, this, I would say, was absolutely a statement. Does this give you confidence going into now Montreal? Obviously, you guys still have to play for first tomorrow, but going into Montreal, does it make you feel like you guys are in a great pacing to potentially win that event?
Yeah, as long as we keep working as hard as we are, as long as we maintain the attitude that, you know, that we maintain today, 100%. And I love the choice of words of statement game. That's literally what I said to the team before the game started. I said, this is a statement game. Every round, a statement. We want to prove a point. And I think we did that. So yeah, I'm definitely confident. I think if we're playing like that in practice, if we're putting forth that effort all the time, I mean, we're only going to get better and better. And like I said, like the talent on the team, there's no one's questioning the talent on the team. No one's asking if any of these guys are good enough. It's a matter of, can we make it happen? And we just need to play like we know we can make it happen, that we want to make it happen.
And you did make it happen.
You did. You did make it happen.
Not yet.
Well,
not yet.
You made it to Montreal. That's the biggest hurdle. You made it through Montreal.
That's a step.
We don't want to put the cart before the horse. You made it to Montreal, which is great. You're the first team in NAL to qualify as well. And obviously, you know, there's still a lot to play for tomorrow. Between Dark Zero and M80, who would you rather face?
Oh, he
Dark Zero.
Dark Zero? Why you want to take on Dark Zero?
Why do you think?
You guys already stomped him 7-2. You just want to do it again?
He wants another round.
It's another statement game.
Well, thank you so much.
Game.
Thank you so much, Canadian, for the interview. I look forward to seeing you guys play tomorrow. You're an absolute gem, and enjoy celebrating as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care, guys.
You guys didn't think that he wanted to play Dark Zero? Are we serious right now?
Out of all the 7-2, it's like, what else do you got to prove? You're the first team to qualify. You already beat them 7-2. Like, he's already
think he wants to play M80? He wants to play Dark Zero. He wants to beat them, get first. I mean, Dark Zero's currently first in the regular stage. If they can take first from them into going into the major, I mean, I feel like that would be a really well storied ring.
Yeah, it would be.
Sure, I mean, like I said, he already got the win against them. I don't know how many times you just want to keep beating someone up at that point. Like, that's.
I mean, some people just want to be the best. Other people just say it. You know, we really see about it in the server.
I mean, he got the win. He didn't get it in playoffs, though. He didn't get it with like $30,000 in prize money difference on the line as well. So I just wanted to hear him say it, Fox. I wanted to hear him say it. Anyway, we can take a look now at our brackets, filled out a little bit more. Obviously, we've got one team through to the finals here, Space Station. They're going down to the third place game. You know, it's unfortunate for him. It really is.
I mean, we say it's unfortunate, but they found themselves here very often, but they do end up clenching that last spot, well, that third spot. So I'm not really worried for Space Station, to say the least. I mean, they did have a fumble of a game today against Soniqs, but I do expect them to get back on the saddle and really put it to whoever they end up going against, whether it's going to be Wildcard or Beast Coast. So I am fairly confident at Space Station we will see them going in for that third spot right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely just the same issues that we see beating down SSG when it comes down to these pressured games. I mean, they were doing phenomenally well at getting the opening kills, at getting those gunfights, but then it's just connecting back. I mean, their defenses, they've been trying to work on that all stage, even from stage 1. It's a lot better now, but obviously there's still a little bit of ways to go, and we'll have to see who they end up playing. I mean, I don't think it's going to get any easier than, any easier at all.
No, definitely not. I mean, it only gets harder from here. But of course, we've got one more match left on today. Another team will get their chance to go to the major. After the break, Dark Zero versus M80. Don't go anywhere.
have to do Vivid. Our coach, he's amazing. Amazing coach. Can I pick myself? Nah, I'll humble myself. Bolo, entry. We're gonna get Woos on flex. LG, new pickup. W. And then we're gonna get another flex for Bay. Bay's gonna be on flex. Benjamaster and Gunner. Every team needs a solid MVP.
So my Dream 6 roster, Vivas as the coach. That's the current M80 coach. Myself, Troy, NJR. I'm gonna say J90 and Gunner.
This one could be a real slobber knocker of a game.
They've got to clear out that position. That one through the screen as Spirit pops the head.
Managing to close it out. Spirits must know that they're there. Manages to find the kill. 2v1 Frida is low health though.
Oh, the take from Spirits in the 1 versus 1, holding onto the back of Spirits. They've traded places, but Frida has that one extra little bit to tie him.
Got you tulips in a twist. Hand out boss like communist. No, I can never ever get back all the things I missed. But I'm that man that think you got the gist. Got you tulips in a twist.